They held the noisy wolf cubs in their mouths, turned around, and disappeared into the depths of the forest. Xia Huanhuan watched for a while, and then caught a few wild rabbits and wild pheasants and put them in the backpack. By the way, she also released some wild animals from the space before returning home. In the evening, she stewed the wild pheasants into chicken soup and put winter bamboo shoots, wolfberries, ginseng slices, and the like in it. Near the end of November, Zhou Qiuhe gave birth to another son, which made Li Jie very happy. Xia Huanhuan sent 10 eggs to her for her health. Zhou Qiuhe's family also raised chickens, but these were considered collective property of the commune, so Li Jie went to the village cadres and bought an old hen with work points and killed it to stew chicken soup for his wife to drink to nourish her body. I don't know how Lu Lan found out about this, so Lu Lan ran to Li Jie's house to ask for chicken soup. Lu Lan was so angry that she cared less and less about her face, so she scolded. "You only give this to your mother? Where are those fat chicken legs?"
What?
"I raised you. Don't you deserve to eat a chicken leg?" Li Jie was so angry that he snatched the bowl from her hand with a dark face and said in a cold voice, "Mom, I only serve you chicken soup because you raised me. My wife has just given birth to a child. Shouldn't I give her some chicken legs to nourish her body? And there are 3 little guys at home. Who doesn't want to eat meat all year round? Isn't it too much to share the chicken legs with the siblings? I won't serve you this chicken soup. Why don't you go to your second brother's house and see if he cares about you?" Lu Lan didn't dare to make trouble anymore after hearing these words, and sat by the door drinking chicken soup dejectedly. Zhou Qiuhe heard Li Jie and Lu Lan quarreling in the house, and she couldn't help but feel relieved. In the past, Li Jie was dull and honest, and she suffered a lot. In the past 2 years, this rough man has really become tough and is willing to argue with Lu Lan for her and the children. Li Jie came in and brought Zhou Qiuhe a bowl of chicken soup with big chicken legs. Zhou Qiuhe smiled and said, "You eat it. You went out to repair pig pens in such a cold weather. Eating it can help you resist the cold." Li Jie said, "You are in confinement. What's the use of me eating it? Others have their mothers-in-law take care of their daughters-in-law during confinement. Last year, the 4th child's mother was in confinement, and her mother was also taking care of her. In our family, your mother's family is far away, so I am the only one left to take care of you. You have suffered enough, and I still eat your chicken legs. Am I still a man? You eat yours, and the chicken heads, necks, and chicken feet in this pot are all mine. You won't be hungry." Zhou Qiuhe was happy to hear this, so she had to eat the chicken legs, but there was still a lot of meat left on the bones, so she shouted that she didn't want to eat it. Li Jie looked distressed, so he took it and gnawed the bones clean before he was done. Zhou Qiuhe was relieved to see that her man had eaten the chicken legs. Sleeping in Li Jie's arms at night, she couldn't help but shyly said, "Just bear with it for a while. When I'm out of confinement, I will definitely reward you well." Li Jie naturally knew what this reward meant, and he felt itchy in his heart, so he could only touch his wife randomly to satisfy his urge. Li Chong and Wang Guixiong finally issued a letter of introduction, and Li Chong ran to the county town to buy a ticket, and went to Beijing in early December. Xia Huanhuan was on guard when she heard Zhou Qiuhe say that Li Chong was going to Jing City. When she saw that Li Chong went to the county town, she first went to Jing City through the space and found Dahe. After following Dahe to the train station, Xia Huanhuan did not show up after recognizing Li Chong's face. She asked Dahe to help find out what Li Chong was going to do in Jing City. With the relationship in Luocheng, and half of the 20 ginsengs sold last time were sold to Jing City, Dahe also made a lot of money. Therefore, it was natural for him to do what Xia Huanhuan asked. Dahe asked someone to follow Li Chong around for a long time. It was also Li Chong's first time in Jing City, and he was also very stupid. He secretly asked people where the black market in Jing City was. The decent people just regarded him as a country bumpkin and ignored him, but there were also people with bad intentions. They all guessed that he might have good things on him, so they targeted him. Fortunately, Dahe was not sure about the relationship between Xia Huanhuan and this person, so he asked his people to protect Li Chong. Li Chong wandered around for a long time without any loss. It was noon when Li Chong still hadn't found the black market, so he found a corner and took out the big cake he brought from home from his bag and started to eat it. The brothers who followed him were also starving, so they came to complain to Dahe. Dahe had no choice but to find a brother and go over to tell Li Chong where the black market was. When Li Chong heard this, he didn't eat the big cake anymore and quickly put it in his bag and followed the man. Dahe was speechless. If he met someone with bad intentions, he would lose his life, not to mention the things on his body. Li Chong entered the black market and looked around for a long time like a fool. He finally found a corner, opened his bag carelessly, and revealed the jade pendant. The jade pendant was really a good item, with rich watercolor and exquisite carving. It was obviously from the palace or the homes of dignitaries this year. There were many people in Beijing who knew the value of the jade pendant, so a group of people gathered around it in a short time.
Li Chong was very happy.
When people asked the price, he asked for 200 yuan. This item may not be worth 200 yuan, but no one is a sucker. How much is it worth? They must want to find a bargain. A group of people shook their heads and said that the texture of the jadeite was just average, and the dragon pattern carved on it was something that ordinary people could not afford. It might bring disaster if they held it. 200 yuan? Not worth it. 100 yuan? That's too much. Brother, I see that it's not easy for you to come to the city. It's only 10 yuan. You can decide whether you can sell it or not. When Li Chong heard this, his face fell immediately. He didn't know the value of the jade pendant, but he thought it was just a big piece of jade. Besides, aren't the jade pendants mentioned in the opera price lists? How come it's not worth 200 yuan, but only 10 yuan? His round-trip ticket to Beijing costs more than 5 yuan. If he wants to sell it for 10 yuan, how can he move to the county town? Seeing that he refused, the people around him said, "Let's do this, 15 yuan. If you give me 1 more cent, I can't get it." Dahe asked his brothers to keep an eye on this side, while Xia Huanhuan was sitting and waiting in a nearby tea house, so the news from there was transmitted in a timely manner. Dahe described the appearance of the jade to Xia Huanhuan and asked the painter to draw a simple picture for her. Xia Huanhuan looked at the picture and her heart moved. This jade. How come it looks so much like the phoenix pendant that Shen Wanxue gave her last year? The messenger who came to deliver the message said, "The price over there has been negotiated to 20 yuan. I think the farmer can't hold on any longer and wants to sell it." Xia Huanhuan pondered for a moment, then took out 50 yuan and said, "Dahe, buy that jade for me." Dahe was also shocked when he saw the 5 big unity notes. "Sister, you are being taken advantage of. That jade is a good thing. 20 is a suitable price for those who are bargaining below, and 25 is the highest price. You directly offer 50 to buy it. If you want to resell it, you will take risks and won't make much money. It's a waste of time." Xia Huanhuan glanced at Dahe and said with a smile, "Although you bought it for 50, you offer 30, and there will be 20 left. You have been busy all day. When the time comes, divide it up and give everyone a drink in the evening." Dahe was stunned for a moment after hearing this, and then he gave a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Or the brothers like to follow you, Sister Wanner. You are open-minded." "Okay. Sister, just wait. The price is 30. None of those people down there can afford it." After a while, the brother who went downstairs to do the work came up with the things. Xia Huanhuan opened the wrapped cloth and saw that the jade pendant was exquisitely carved with a flying dragon. Isn't it a pair with the jade that Shen Wanxue gave her? But how did this dragon pendant end up in Li Chong's hands? No, Li Chong couldn't have this thing. Otherwise, he would have sold it long ago. Li Chong probably got it from Lulan recently. How did Lulan get this? Shen Wanxue said that the dragon and the phoenix are a pair. The dragon pendant was given to her son, who was fostered in a farmer's family as a token so that they could meet in the future.
Could it be
one of the sons of the Li family is Shen Wanxue's son? Judging from the age, it's either Li Zhan or Li Jie. Xia Huanhuan remembered that Shen Wanxue had specifically asked about Li Zhan's birthday, but after asking, she felt sad. It seemed that it didn't match. However, the birthday that Li Zhan mentioned that day was not his actual birthday. Could it be that they were sidetracked? But if it was really Li Zhan, why didn't Shen Wanxue recognize Lulan when she saw him? She fostered her child back then, So it's impossible that she didn't remember what the housewife of the Foster family looked like, right? Otherwise, how could she find him back in the future?
But
Looking at the way Lu Lan treated Li Jian, she really didn't act like a biological mother. All she did was ask for money all day long, and she didn't care about Li Jian at all. In the past, Xia Huanhuan just thought that Lu Lan was born selfish and biased, only thinking about herself, and even exploited her own son. Now that she thinks about it, if Li Jian is not her biological son, then doesn't her selfish and biased attitude make sense? Seeing Xia Huanhuan lost in thought, Dahe waved his hand in front of her eyes and called out tentatively, "Sister, are you okay?" He knew that some old objects were a bit weird, and whoever touched them might have their soul away. Xia Huanhuan came back to her senses and asked blankly, "Huh?" Dahe smiled and said, "No, sister. It's just a piece of jade." "Why are you so obsessed with it?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Nothing. I suddenly remembered something. Thank you for today. I'll leave if there's nothing else. I'll treat you to dinner another day." Dahe smiled and sent her back and asked, "Sister, should we follow that farmer brother and send him to the train station?" Xia Huanhuan thought about it. Lu Lan had secretly instigated Song Xiuyue to harm her. Although Li Chong and Wang Guixiang were not good people, they did not have any deep hatred except for some conflicts between the children. On the contrary, she had to thank him for stealing Lu Lan's jade, which allowed her to discover a big secret. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Then I'll trouble you to him to the train station." As for whether he would be targeted on the train later, it all depended on Li Chong's luck. Dahe listened and agreed. Li Chong was also lucky, and he was also very alert, so he returned to Qingshui village safely. Wang Guixiang was also very disappointed when she heard that he sold it for 30 yuan. 30 yuan is not a small amount, but a job in a county factory, even a temporary worker, would cost at least 100 yuan to buy, not to mention other expenses. They realized how fantastic their original idea was. Now that he couldn't go to the county town, he had to stay in the village. Other households in the village had electric wires, which were bright and bright, but his family had nothing. When he went out to chat, people would tease him for being too stingy. Li Chong had no choice but to go to the commune and make a fuss, insisting that someone come to his house to pull the wires separately. It took 2 more yuan to settle the matter. After Xia Huanhuan came back, she began to think about where to start to investigate this matter. If she asked Lu Lan directly, she might not say it. She might look back and find that the jade she had secretly hidden was lost, and she would suspect that she had stolen it, which would cause another fuss. But if she asked Shen Wanxue directly, what if the jade was obtained by Lu Lan from someone else in her early years, and Shen Wanxue's child was not fostered in the Li family, then she would be disappointed and hopeful, which was unbearable. It would be better to ask indirectly first. It was just the Laba festival, and Xia Huanhuan was busy making laba porridge. Laba porridge requires 8 ingredients to be cooked, and the ingredients are easy to get. Rice, millet, red beans, mung beans, peanuts, lotus seeds harvested in summer, jujubes, and chestnuts harvested in autumn. That's 8 ingredients. Cook it into a thick porridge, then sprinkle it with sugar. Adults and children like it. Xia Huanhuan carefully crushed the larger ingredients in the porridge, such as peanuts, lotus seeds, jujubes, and chestnuts, with a spoon, and then dared to feed the triplets some. Now, the triplets are 1 year and 1 month old, and it's almost time for them to be weaned. After they turned 1 year old, Xia Huanhuan began to reduce the number of times she fed them milk, and mainly let them eat. When the 3 little guys were hungry, they still made a fuss about wanting to drink milk, but at this time, Xia Huanhuan deliberately hid, wiped it with coal ash, and lied to them that the milk had gone bad. Anyway, she used all kinds of tricks to coax the 3 little ancestors to eat when they were too hungry. After a month, it was effective. Sometimes, when she woke up in the middle of the night, she would remember her motherless grandmother and howl sadly, which made Xia Huanhuan laugh and feel sorry for her. After cooking laba porridge, Xia Huanhuan served a bowl to Zhou Qiuhe. Zhou Qiuhe was still in confinement after childbirth. When Lu Lan drank chicken soup, she ran over quickly to ask for it. but it was a dream to ask her to come and cook for her daughter-in-law during her confinement. Therefore, Li Jie was the one who cooked these days. Li Jie was a rough man, and it was good enough for him to cook rice. He definitely couldn't make laba porridge. When he went over to take a look, as expected, there was corn paste and boiled sweet potatoes on the dining table at home, and there was also fried cabbage. When Zhou Qiuhe was in confinement, she had a bowl of noodle soup made of white flour batter and eggs. Even so, Zhou Qiuhe was reluctant to drink it herself, and asked Li Jie to make a small bowl and give some to each of the 3 children. Dongbao was 2 or 3 years old, and he followed his 2 sisters happily, looking pitiful and cute. Xia Huanhuan brought the laba porridge over, and Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe were so grateful that they didn't know what to say. After Zhou Qiuhe gave birth, Xia Huanhuan had already sent 10 eggs. If she made something delicious later, she would ask Xiaowen and Xiaowu to bring some over. This was really beyond words. Xia Huanhuan sat down and chatted tentatively for a few words. She had heard before that most of the people in Qingshui village were refugees from other places, and later, with the consent of the township, they settled down here. The Li family seemed to have also fled here, but she didn't know any more details. Third brother and sister-in-law, I heard before that our Li family also fled from famine, so where is our ancestral home? Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe thought it was just a casual chat and didn't pay much attention. Zhou Qiuhe smiled and said, "You have to ask Li Jie about this. Our family also fled from famine, but we are not from the same place as them." Li Jie scratched his head and smiled. "When we fled from famine, I was only 3 years old, and Li Zhan was about to be 1 year old, and he didn't remember anything yet. However, I heard from my father and eldest brother in the early years that they came from Shandong province. It was because of the flood in the Yellow River. They were originally going to flee to the northeast, but when they got here, they couldn't walk anymore, so they had to stop." Xia Huanhuan nodded and smiled. Li Zhan was less than 2 years old at that time. So young. Thinking about how he was a little kid, not much older than Yan Yan Ye and Yao Yao now, he followed the adults to flee from famine, and it was so pitiful to think about it. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but feel distressed. Li Jie called. "That's right. I vaguely remember that my father carried me on his back, and my sister or my brother took turns carrying Li Zhan. Sometimes he had to walk by himself.
Anyway, it was so difficult to survive back then."
Xia Huanhuan nodded, and suddenly asked out of the blue, "Third brother, have you heard of a name called Liang Yunxia?" In the past, Shen Wanxue also asked her out of the blue once, asking her if she had heard of it. At that time, she felt strange. Why did he ask her a name out of the blue? Then she remembered it. Now that I think about it, maybe it has something to do with the foster care of Shen Wanxue's child. Liang Yunxia?
Li Jie ripete di Nadase.
After trying to recall for a long time, he shook his head and said, "It sounds a bit familiar. By the way, there seems to be a person named Lu Yunxia in the next commune. Is she her?" Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but feel a little disappointed after hearing this. Li Jie was only 3 years old at the time, and it was normal for him not to remember things. It seems that we should ask Li Chong and Lu Lan. Suddenly, Xia Huanhuan's mind moved and asked, "Third brother, speaking of it, my sister has not come back for so many years."
I don't know how she is now.
The eldest brother of the Li family, the father of Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, has passed away, but the eldest sister of the Li family should remember a lot of things when she fled from famine. Li Jie heard her mention the eldest sister and sighed, saying, "Alas, there has been no news from the eldest sister since she got married. The old Li family is sorry for her. When I was 10 years old, in order to have enough food for the family, my father and mother married her to a 40-year-old widower in Lin County for 20 yuan of betrothal money. Because of this, my sister never came back after getting married. This road is not accessible." Xia Huanhuan was disappointed, but there was nothing she could do. She chatted for a while and went back. That night, she brought laba porridge to Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi. He happened to see Shen Wanxue making clothes, so he went forward to take a look. It looked like a men's cotton padded jacket made of new cotton, so he smiled and asked, "Annie, are you making clothes for the uncle in the West?" Shun Wanshua smiled and said, I made it for your uncle and have already sent it over. This one. Oh, let's not talk about it. Huan, it's hard for you to send us food again. The millet, cornmeal, white flour, and eggs sent last time have not been eaten yet. Seeing that she changed the subject, Xia Huan roughly guessed that judging from the size of the clothes, it was probably made for her son. If it were in the past, he would have acquiesced and would not bring up this topic again and expose other people's scars, but today, she wanted to be indirect, and this was a good entry point. Xia Huan picked up the cotton padded jacket, looked at it from beginning to end, and said with a smile, this cotton padded jacket is similar to the body shape of my Li Zhan. Upon hearing this, Shan Wanshua's face suddenly turned pale. In her mind, this coat was made according to Li Zhan's body shape. After a moment of silence, Shan Wanshua sighed and said with a smile, what you said is that your figure is similar to Li Zhan's.
But,
if you don't mind, I will make one for Li Zhan tomorrow. Xia Huan heard it and said quickly, Annie, that's not what I meant. Shan Wanshua smiled. It's okay. You and Li Zhan have been secretly taking care of me for the past year or two. Not to mention one cotton padded jacket. Even 10 are worth it. Xia Huan said, Annie, it's really not necessary. I made a cotton padded jacket for Li Zhan a month ago and sent it to him. Besides, they have uniform military coats in winter, so he won't be cold. Shen Wanshua heard it and said with a smile, alas.
You are so formal with me.
This one has some special meaning, otherwise I am not a stingy person. Xia Huan gritted her teeth and asked directly, Auntie, let me ask, this one is made by you for your lost son, right? When Shan Wanshua heard this, she was stunned for a moment. Then her eyes suddenly turned red, and she turned her face away quickly, saying, Oh. These 2 days are his birthday, so I make one every year thinking, even if the child can't wear it, it's also for the mother.
Oh.
When she said this, she couldn't continue and could only sigh. Xia Huan was excited. Li Zhan's real birthday is December 11th in the lunar calendar, isn't it in these few days? Xia Huan asked tentatively. Andy, I shouldn't ask this, but some sad things may make you feel better after you say them out. Annie, can you tell me about what happened back then? Shan Wanshua listened, looked at Xia Huan for a while, then sighed quietly, patted Xia Huan's hand, and said with a smile, These old things are all my own sufferings. I shouldn't tell them out to make others upset or add to the conversation, but since you asked, I will be hypocritical for once and tell you about my sufferings. Maybe I can feel better in my heart. That was 26 years ago. At that time, the whole country had not been liberated. Your uncle and I followed the army to Shandong province. It was winter, and it snowed heavily. I was almost due to give birth. It was too dangerous to camp outside with the army. Besides, there might be a battle to fight that night. The superior sent me to a farmer's house in a village in the rear to give birth. After your uncle and the soldiers sent me here, they went back to fight. In the second half of the night, there was a roar of artillery fire. Didn't they start a war with that small group of resistance? I was extremely worried, fearing that your uncle was injured and something went wrong. Maybe this worry caused me to have a miscarriage. In the second half of the night, I started to have severe stomach pains. I was about to give birth. Fortunately, the housewife of that family was experienced. She told her husband to call the midwife immediately and ordered her son and daughter to boil hot water. In order to replenish my energy, she took out the only brown sugar in the house, soaked it in hot water, and fed me the brown sugar water. It can be said that if it weren't for that family, I and the baby in my belly would have died long ago. It was not until dawn that the child was born. It was a son. I heard the artillery fire over there, so I thought the fighting must have stopped. I heard from the farmers in the village who were delivering supplies to the front line that the battle was won. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I was still worried, not knowing whether your uncle was dead or alive. I waited anxiously until noon, when your uncle came back to the farmer's house to pick me and the children up. He was shot in the shoulder, but fortunately the bullet passed through the muscle and did not stay in the body, so I simply stopped the bleeding and bandaged it. I was completely relieved. However, he came over and said that he might not be able to take me and the child with him. After the battle yesterday, the troops were about to move to another place. He still asked for instructions and came to tell me that he had to leave immediately to catch up with the main force. At that time, I was also worried that I would never see him again after the separation. I was also worried that his injuries would be infected and no one would take care of him. So, I thought of fostering the child in this farmer's home first, and I would go with him to catch up with the main force. After a while, if we are lucky enough to survive, we will come to take the child back to our side. If something really happens, the child will have a chance to survive. Your uncle didn't agree at first, and insisted that I stay with him. He would definitely come to pick us up when the time comes. It was because I insisted that he had no choice but to agree. The family was also very kind. Without saying anything, they agreed to take care of the child for us first. We left all the money we had with us at that time, a total of only $10 to them and asked them to help take care of the child. I thought about it and asked your uncle to take off the dragon pendant from the dragon and phoenix and give it to the farmer's family, asking them to keep it for the child as a token. In case anything happens, they can recognize each other when they see the phoenix pendant in the future. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but said when she heard this, "Annie, the phoenix pendant is so important. Why did you give it to me? Isn't it?"
Shen Wanshue said, "Alas.
Maybe it's because I have been looking for him for so many years, and I feel that the chance of finding him again is getting slimmer and slimmer. Your uncle has been persuading me that this child may not be destined to be with us, so I shouldn't blame myself anymore. So I made up my mind and gave the phoenix pendant to you, Huan. Maybe I can. I can really let go and stop being obsessed." I couldn't say the rest of the words. Seeing her like this, Xia Huanhuan felt uncomfortable and said, "Auntie, what happened later? When you sent the child to foster care, you should have asked about the situation of that family, right? Why did they get separated later?" Shen Wanshue raised her hand to wipe her tears, calmed down her emotions, and then continued, "Alas. Why didn't you ask clearly? The village was called Lijiakan. We also asked the head of the household if he was the Li from Muzi. The head of the household smiled and said he was illiterate, but he should have the same surname as the one in the village. There is also the housewife of that family. Her name is Liang Yunxia, but I don't know which words it is. There were 3 children in the family at that time. The eldest sister was 7 or 8 years old, the second son was 4 or 5 years old, and there was a younger son who was just over 2 years old. He didn't even have a name. He was called Daya. I thought at that time that I would just come over to pick up the child after being left for only half a year, so I didn't ask any more questions. Who would have thought that the war was so intense that it had already been over for a year and a half? Your uncle and I immediately rushed to the village to pick up the child. It's a pity. After arriving, where is the shadow of that village? I heard from people that there was a flood there half a year ago, and the Yellow River burst its banks. Dozens of villages along the river were affected. The Lijia village was the worst, and the entire village was flooded. When we went there, it's still a land of emptiness. I heard that more than half of the people in the village were washed away, and those who survived had their crops destroyed, so they had to drag their families to flee. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan said, "I felt sad and desolate in my heart. Sometimes I really can't explain the fate." However, the details that Shen Wanshue said were consistent with what Li Jia heard. For example, that village. In Lu province, people all fled because of floods when rivers burst their banks. The only thing that didn't match up with Li Zhan's age and birthday was the Li family surname. I've seen people mistake Li for Li. Yes, after all, Li is a common surname, so it is easy to get it wrong, but the reverse is really rare. Also, the name of the housewife in the farmhouse did not match, but her mother-in-law was named Liang Yunxia. She was clearly named Lu Lan. In addition to the number of children, Shen Wanshue said that there were 3 children in the family at that time, 1 daughter and 2 sons. Judging by their age, they should be Li Zhan's eldest sister, whom he had lost contact with for many years, and it's the dead eldest brother or Li Chang. The youngest should be Li Jia. Li Qiao can also explain that it was born later, but how can Li Chang explain it? Xia Huanhuan can think of the possibility now, or Lulan is. She married later. Judging from her preference for Li Chong, she must have brought Li Chong here, and it turned out that Long Pei was not a child of the Li family. Or that Long Pei was a coincidence between Lulan or the Li family, for example, someone who escaped from famine. On the way, I got it from the real Li family. Xia Huanhuan is not afraid of the first possibility, but what if it turns out to be the second possibility? If she told Shen Wanxue now that she had found Long Pei and Li Zhan might be her son, how sad would Shen Wanxue be if she found out later that he was not her son? Thinking of this, Xia Huanhuan still suppressed her inner excitement and decided to hide the incident for the time being. After Shen Wanxue finished telling what happened back then, she was stunned for a while and couldn't help crying silently. She was only in her early 20s. When she and Jinbong had just been married for more than a year, and she still had the purest and most unhesitating determination for love, what she was thinking about was that if Jinbong died, she would never want to live alone, even though it would hurt her for half her life. She gave birth to a child, but in the face of the child who was waiting to be fed, maternal love still lost to her love for her husband. If she had listened to her husband and stayed behind with her son, waiting for him to come back to pick them up, maybe she and her children would also die in the flood, but at least her children would not be afraid, because they would have her as their mother on the road to the underworld, right? So, she has been refusing to forgive herself and has been regretting it. She had spent more than 20 years in love. She even refused to have another child, fearing that she would have other children, so she easily forgiven her sin of abandoning her first child. Jinbong is also rare in his magnanimity. If it were another man, and his wife was unwilling to carry on the family line for him, he would have divorced and married another man long ago. However, her husband still silently supported all her decisions for many years. He kept comforting her and telling her to let it go. In fact, why didn't he feel regretful and guilty in his heart? They will feel pain in their hearts for the rest of their lives for the child they left behind just after he was born. Huan, I'm sorry for letting you listen to me, an old woman, talk so much. I have been holding these things in my heart for many years. Now that I tell you about them today, I feel a little bit more at ease. Xia Huanhuan held Shen Wanxue's hand tightly and said softly, Auntie, don't be too sad. Isn't there a saying that when the clouds bloom, the moon shines brightly? Yes, God must have noticed your persistence for so many years, and your child will definitely be found. Shen Wanxue couldn't help but be stunned when she heard her last words. She said them so firmly, and then he smiled and said, Oh, I have been looking for him for most of my life. I am not afraid of finding him again and dying. If I can't find him in this life, I will go to the Lord of Hades and stay there. In the next life, I will be mother and son with that child. Xia Huanhuan said a few more words and then went back. Now, the old man of the Li family and the eldest brother of the Li family are both dead. Liang Yunxia didn't know what happened, but she was probably dead. Asking Lulan and Li Chong would definitely be unreliable. Therefore, the only key is the eldest daughter of the Li family. The eldest sister of the Li family is named Li Zhaodi. She has not been heard from for many years. Xia Huanhuan can only ask Luo Cheng to help her go to Linxian to look for her. If she finds him, he will tell her the address without having to meet her or anything. That's it. Since he was going to find Luo Cheng anyway, Xia Huanhuan did business with Luo Cheng again. It happened to be winter, so this time there were still 20 ginseng trees and an additional 500 pounds of cotton. Ginseng is still 50 yuan apiece, but cotton is 2 cents cheaper than the first transaction. It is sold at 1 yuan and 2 pounds, which adds up to 1,600 yuan. When it came to asking Li to recruit his younger brother, Luo Cheng also agreed. This matter couldn't be found in half a day, so Xia Huanhuan just calmed down and stayed at home to prepare for the Chinese New Year. In the middle of the 12th lunar month, Wu Feng, Aunt Wu's youngest son, took back the 5 yuan that Xia Huanhuan had borrowed from his wife when she gave birth and the 10 yuan that Xia Huanhuan later left behind, a total of 15 yuan. Seeing that the young man was true to his word, Xia Huanhuan smiled and returned the little yellow croaker to them. After Wu Feng finished harvesting in autumn, he went to find Xia Shuangshan and said that he wanted to learn bricklaying from him. He would start by making soil embryos for others, moving bricks, and mixing clay. He could earn 80 cents a day. I heard from Xia Shuangshan that Wu Feng has a good understanding and is hardworking and willing to work. When there is work next spring, and he is still with him, he will be able to do big work such as building walls and sealing roofs. A big job can earn you 1 yuan, $2 or $3 a day, which is a considerable income for rural people. However, when Wu Feng went back with the small yellow croaker, for some reason his sister-in-law Chen Yue found out about the small yellow croaker in his family. Chen Yue thought that the little yellow croaker was secretly given by Aunt Wu to her younger son, so she ran to the door of Aunt Wu's yard, sat down and started crying and making a fuss, saying that Aunt Wu and Uncle Wu were partial to their younger son, so they just gave it to her. The little yellow croaker is given to the younger son, but not to the eldest son. Does this mean that they don't expect the eldest son to provide for them in the future, or what? The whole village came to watch the fun. Aunt Wu was so angry that she almost lost her temper. As a legend in the commune gossip world, she has always laughed at others. How could anyone laugh at her? Now having such a daughter-in-law in the stall is really bad luck. The key is, even she doesn't know about the little yellow croaker. If the old Wu family had such a thing, they wouldn't be able to marry such a sharp-tongued shrew to their eldest son. Wu Feng had no choice but to come over with Chen Qi and told her mother that it was Chen Qi's grandmother who secretly gave her granddaughter the dowry at the bottom of the box. After hearing this, Chen Yue was speechless for a moment, and then she sneered. Did my sister-in-law's grandma give it to me? The Chen family over there is somewhat related to my family. The first 2 sons in the family still live in the countryside. How come they are so poor when they have a little yellow croaker as a dowry for their granddaughter? Mom, Uncle, you are telling lies with your eyes open. Your eldest son and daughter-in-law are so easy to bully.
Come on.
Oh, Wu Zhen, you idiot. Your parents and your brother are drinking spicy food behind your back. What the Hades are you doing? If you have some good food and some money at home, hurry up. Send it to your parents' house. In the end, who cares about you? Aunt Wu was really angry. Unexpectedly, she had been a leader in the village all her life, and when she was getting old, she would have such a daughter-in-law, and the backyard would be on fire. Immediately, she pinched her waist and pointed at Chen Yue and cursed. You heartless shrew. Chi-Chi told me about the origin of the little yellow croaker, and you don't believe it. What's going on? I have a lot of money in my family, and yet I want you to have some relatives. Does my family know? With the virtue of your mother's family, if someone is close to you, they will reveal their family background to you. Why don't you go to their house and insist on borrowing money if you don't leave? How much food supplement did you give to your parents' family? I didn't tell you earlier. Your brother's brother just came here to borrow money this autumn, right? My son has been working hard for a year, and has he earned 20 yuan? The subsidy has not yet been given to my mother, but you are the first one, and the whole 10 yuan has been directly given to your brother. When Chen Yue heard this, her face suddenly became very beautiful. How did her mother-in-law know about this? Because of this, Wu Zhen even beat her up and called her a prodigal witch. The younger brother from her natal family was very lazy. He married his wife and built a house the year before last. He asked her family to get 50 yuan. Last year, he gave birth to a baby and got another 20 yuan. Counting the other bits and pieces of 1 or 2 yuan, he got at least 100 yuan.
Blocked.
To put it mildly, it was a loan. After so many years, I haven't paid back a penny. But Chen Yue still devoted her whole heart to her mother's family, always thinking that if she was going to be wronged in the Wu family, wouldn't she have to rely on her mother's brother to come and support her? Why isn't my mother's family closer than my husband's family? Aunt Wu continued to scold. Also, if you have some delicious food or some money, why don't you send it to our house quickly? Ha! If you really want to say that, Lao Wu, go and get my account books. Uncle Wu still wanted to calm down the matter and scolded. This family's ugliness should not be exposed to the public, so we should close the door. Aunt Wu turned to Uncle Wu and scolded. Do you think the family's ugliness should not be exposed to the public? The eldest son, and his wife are making trouble outside the gate. Do you mean to talk about it behind closed doors? Please bring it to me quickly, and don't make me scold you. Uncle Wu shrank his head after being told this. Went into the house to get the ledger. Chen Yue was stunned for a moment. Her mother-in-law couldn't read either, right? Why do you still have a ledger? After a while, Uncle Wu brought the account book. On the yellow straw paper, there were many things written in simple Chinese characters and sketches, as well as numbers. Aunt Wu looked around at the crowd who came to watch the fun for a while before saying, "Dear villagers, I, Aunt Wu, have been in our Qingshui village for so many years, and there is really nothing to complain about. But today, my eldest daughter-in-law said in public that I am partial, so I have to argue. She said that her husband has good food and money, and he sends them to me and old Wu. I also have an account book here, and I record everything that comes in and out of the house so that I can calculate whether it is correct at the beginning and end of the year. I didn't expect to use it today. Since everyone is here, I will read it to everyone and let everyone judge whether we old couple have eaten my eldest son's food and used his money." At that moment, Aunt Wu read from the account book. It doesn't matter if she doesn't read it, but once she reads it, everyone understands. The eldest son of the Wu family did not say that the old couple did not cook. They did not cook before. They all patted the buttocks and walked away. Mao's money or wild fungus from the mountains. Occasionally, I was in the rabbit and was filial, listening a lot. It's tile. He had acquiesced when they came to make trouble, so why did they turn against each other so suddenly? Aunt Wu looked at the couple coldly and sneered. "You don't have to put on a show for me here. Last time you were making trouble to separate the family, but it was not done thoroughly. Today it has become like this, so you should just divide the family. In the future, we will not count on you to support us in our old age. If you have a conscience, come and take a look. If you don't have a conscience, then we can never have anything to do with each other again." After saying that, she waved her hand and went back to her room. Seeing that the excitement was almost over, the villagers went home. However, they still talked about this after dinner talk for a long time. The Wu family finally separated the family. Chen Yue was beaten and went back to her parents' home. She called her brother from her parents' home and had a fight with Wu General, but in the end, the two of them reconciled and lived together. It was just that without the subsidy from her parents-in-law, life was a little tighter than before. Chen Yue and Wu Zhen both regretted it, but there was nothing they could do. As for the matter of the small yellow croaker, because it spread, everyone knew that it was brought by Qin Shi from her mother's home. Later, the news spread back to the old Qin family. The two sons in the family didn't know that Grandma Yao gave Qin Shi a small yellow croaker as a dowry. The main reason was that when Shen Wanshua lived in the commune where Grandma Yao's family lived, Qin Shi helped Grandma Yao take care of Shen Wanshua a lot, so Shen Wanshua especially gave 2 small yellow croakers. When other grandsons of Grandma Yao got married, Shen Wanshua also gave 5 or 10 yuan, but of course it was not as precious as the small yellow croaker. This matter spread back to the old Qin family, so Grandma Yao's son and grandson began to make trouble with Grandma Yao. Xia Huanhuan didn't go to watch the fun of the Wu family, but Lin Yuru went, so she knew the ins and outs of it, and she was also sighing in her heart. When faced with interests, especially when it comes to the huge profits of yellow croaker, which can be exchanged for at least 50 yuan in the black market, it is really. Fortunately, the children at home are still young, except for occasional fights and quarrels. They are relatively harmonious, and she doesn't have to worry about that. She is still busy at home growing bean sprouts, making tofu, drying winter bamboo shoots, etc. About 6 or 7 days after the incident at the Wu family, when she was busy, there was a sudden knock on the door. When she opened it, it turned out to be Qin Shi. Qin Shi cried so hard that her eyes turned red. She choked and said, "Sister-in-law Wanner, can you go to my mother's house with me? My grandma is sick." "Sister Wanner, didn't you help me deliver a baby before? I heard from my mother-in-law that you have learned some Chinese medicine. Can you help to take a look?" My grandma also secretly asked someone to send me a message, saying that she wanted to see you. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Why did Grandma Yao want to see her? Thinking of her relationship with Shen Wanshua and Grandma Yao's care for Shen Wanshua, Xia Huanhuan did not hesitate and said, "Wait a minute, I will tell my family and then go with you. I have a bicycle, and it will be faster to take you there. Chun-Chi has been close to her grandmother since she was a child. Now she is so anxious that she is at a loss. After hearing this, she nodded gratefully. Xia Huanhuan went back to the house and told Lin Yuru a few words, then rode away on her bicycle. Wu Feng was worried about his wife, so he borrowed a bicycle and followed with his wife. When they arrived at Chen's house, they saw the whole family gathered in the 2 yellow adobe houses where Grandma Yao lived. Xia Huanhuan thought at first that they were worried about Grandma Yao's illness, but when she went in, she saw that Grandma Yao's eldest son, youngest son, and daughter-in-law were looking at each other with cross eyes. Seeing Chun-Chi coming back, Chun-Chi's father, Chen Laoda, came up immediately and raised his hand to hit Chun-Chi. You're a traitor. After getting married, you only think about your husband's family's things. You still have a face to come back. Xia Huanhuan's face sank, and she pulled Chun-Chi away, and the slap was in vain. Seeing that his wife was almost beaten, Wu Feng rushed over, stood in front of Chun-Chi and Xia Huanhuan, and said, "Don't hit my wife." Chen Laoda glanced at Xia Huanhuan, and then looked at Wu Feng, who looked like he was ready to fight to the death. He didn't dare to do anything else, so he scolded in dissatisfaction. "What are you doing here? This is our Qin family's family affair." At this time, Chun-Chi's uncle Chen Laoer spoke first in a sarcastic tone. "Brother, you don't have to act here with your daughter and son-in-law. Anyway, the little yellow croaker was given to your family by Mom. Brother, don't think that you won't admit it just because I said I gave it to your daughter. I'm making it clear today. If Mom still has other things, I'll give you more of the little yellow croaker, and we can still be brothers in harmony. If Mom doesn't have any, humph, then don't blame me for looking for brother and asking for half of the money for the big yellow croaker." Old Chin was furious. How would I know that Mom gave this girl her most precious dowry? I only knew about it from the rumor from the commune over there. Stinky girl, didn't I send you a message asking you to bring the little yellow croaker? Did you bring it? Chun-Chi had been crying since she entered the door. After hearing what her father said, she hurried to take the little yellow croaker out of her arms. "Dad, I..." But Xia Huanhuan stopped her at the right time, signaling her not to speak or take things out. Xia Huanhuan originally thought that it was just that Grandma Yao was seriously ill, so she asked her to come and see. Unexpectedly, it was this posture as soon as she came, and it was another lawsuit caused by those 2 small yellow croakers. Grandma Yao's eldest son and youngest son were in Grandma Yao's room, not caring about their mother's health, but trying to force Grandma Yao to take out her personal belongings and share them with them. If it was Grandma Yao's own things, it would be the Qin family's family affairs, and she actually didn't intend to intervene. However, Xia Huanhuan knew that Shen Wanshua's belongings were all stored with Grandma Yao. So, what they wanted to share were Shen Wanshua's things. Then she couldn't ignore it. Xia Huanhuan said, "I didn't know, so you all acted like sons like this? Your mother was lying on the Kong, and you didn't say to go find a doctor quickly, but ran to your mother's room and clamored to divide the family property? You are really filial." After saying this, Chen Laoda and Chen Laoer were a little embarrassed. Chen Laoer stood up suddenly and said, "Where did you come from, young daughter-in-law? What does our Qin family's affairs have to do with you? Don't meddle in other people's business." Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and said, "I was asked by Chun-Chi to treat her grandmother. You sons are not filial, so why don't you let your granddaughter be filial?" Chen Laoer was so angry that he was about to hit Xia Huanhuan impulsively, but was stopped by Wu Feng. Xia Huanhuan sneered, "I have just registered with your commune with a letter of introduction. Your commune secretary also knows that I am here to treat your mother. If you dare to fight with me today, I will definitely report it to your commune. If you are not afraid of your reputation of being unfilial, just do it." She would beat them to a pulp. Of course, it should be done secretly, so that these people accidentally bump into the wall or trip over their feet. After hearing this, the Qin family members did not dare to be impulsive anymore. Reputation is very important in the countryside. If a reputation for being unfilial spreads, then in the future, no one in the family will be willing to marry their children, and they will have to pay a lot more for the bride price. After hearing Xia Huanhuan's hint, Chin-Chi did not take out the small yellow croaker and cried, "Dad, second uncle, I was afraid that it would fall on the road, so I didn't bring it here today. Let the doctor see my grandma first, and we can talk about other things after she gets better. Wu Feng and I have also discussed it. As long as you are willing to let me see my grandma, we will take out the small yellow croaker and share it equally with the family." There was only one small yellow croaker that Chen Yue saw. On the other hand, neither Wu Feng nor Chin-Chi revealed the truth. So even if they had to divide it, only one would be divided. These words were said on the way. After Chin-Chi and Wu Feng talked to Xia Huanhuan, Xia Huanhuan came up with the idea. After all, with such a top-notch family, the small yellow croaker has been exposed. Chin-Chi and Wu Feng are not the type to sever ties with their natal family, so it is impossible for them to keep it all, and there is no better way. Fortunately, there is still one left. When the Qin family heard that Chen-Chi was willing to take out the small yellow croaker and divide it equally, their faces softened a little. After thinking about it, their mother was so sick now, and they had been asking about it for a day and a night, but their mother still didn't give in and tell them where the other small yellow croakers were hidden. Therefore, they agreed to let Xia Huanhuan treat Grandma Yao. Xia Huanhuan felt her pulse and checked her again, and knew that Grandma Yao was almost at the end of her life, and she was afraid that she would not last for a few more days. Grandma Yao has been in a trance. Ever since her own son found out about the little yellow croaker, he has been running to her room to force her, and even didn't give her much food to eat. She held on for a few days. After all, she was almost 70 years old, and she was also desolate and desperate, so she fell ill. She has been lying in bed for the past 2 days, without a drop of water, and her consciousness has become more and more trance, and she is on her deathbed. But she is still hanging on just because those things of Shen Wanxue are still with her. If she doesn't explain clearly, how can she return those things to her young lady? However, if she tells her sons and grandchildren, I'm afraid they will just divide them up like wolves, and none of them will be returned to Shen Wanxue. Granddaughter Chen-Chi can be entrusted, but the child is soft-hearted, and she is afraid that her parents and second uncle will force her. After thinking about it, she can only think of Xia Huanhuan. She has also seen how Xia Huanhuan has taken care of Shen Wanxue in the past 2 years. Moreover, she always feels that Xia Huanhuan doesn't lack the money. Apart from other things, the food, clothing, and other things she had given to Shen Wanxue in the past 2 years were worth a lot of money. Shen Wanxue also trusted her. So when a neighbor came to see her, Grandma Yao secretly asked her to send a message to Chin-Chi, asking Chin-Chi to find Xia Huanhuan. After taking the pulse, Xia Huanhuan looked up and said to Chin-Chi, "Chi-Chi, go to the kitchen and cook a bowl of noodle dumpling soup for your grandma. I think your father and your second uncle are planning to starve your grandma to death." The old man's physical function was getting weaker and weaker. If he was hungry, it would be easy to drag down his whole body. After hearing what Xia Huanhuan said, the Qin family felt a little embarrassed. After hearing this, Chen-Chi's tears flowed down again, and she quickly agreed to go to the kitchen. Chen Laoda said unhappily, "What happened to my mother?" Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and then said, "I will write a prescription later. If you can get the medicine, maybe she can be saved." Chen Laoda and Chen Lao heard this and immediately became anxious. Is it so serious?
Can she speak?
At this time, Grandma Yao suddenly grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand and then said with all her strength, "You rascals all. Cough, cough, cough.
Get out.
Otherwise,
I
will take the things at home over there, and I won't say a word." Chen Laoda and Chen Lao saw that Grandma Yao had not said a word for several days, and suddenly spoke, finally mentioned the main topic, and immediately surrounded her and asked a lot of questions. But Grandma Yao just glared at them fiercely and refused to speak. Seeing this, Chen Laoda and Chen Lao also knew their mother's temper. If they didn't go out, she might really take the whereabouts of the little yellow croaker and never tell it even if she died. Therefore, they had to go out. Grandma Yao looked at Xia Huanhuan with tears in her eyes, motioned her to put her ear close to her, and said, "Huanhuan, my sister Wan'er's things are all here with me. After I die, can you keep them for me and pass them on to Sister Wana later?" Xia Huanhuan heard this and quickly grabbed Grandma Yao's hand and said, Grandma Yao, please stop talking. Your illness will get better. Grandma Yao shook her head and smiled. I know my body. It's just. Can you promise not to embezzle them and pass them on to Sister Wanner when the time comes? Otherwise, I will not rest in peace after my death. Xia Huanhuan listened to her words and made a bold decision to comfort her. She whispered, Grandma Yao, I will show you something, but don't be afraid or scream. As she said this, she went directly into her own space, took out a treasure box from it, and then came out. Grandma Yao was also shocked to see Xia Huanhuan suddenly disappear out of thin air, but she still resisted and didn't scream. When Xia Huanhuan appeared again, she stared at Xia Huanhuan in surprise. Xia Huanhuan opened the treasure box and saw that it was full of gold that she had hoarded before crossing over. It was enough to fill a whole box. Xia Huanhuan whispered, Grandma Yao, don't worry. I will not keep a penny of the things you entrusted to me, and I will pass them on to Aunt Shin. Although Grandma Yao was old, she was still a little scared and asked tremblingly, Girl, are you a fox fairy? She had heard from the storyteller that there were foxes that cultivated into spirits, transformed into humans, and married humans in the world. The good ones would repay the favors, and the evil ones would absorb the essence and harm people. Xia Huanhuan suddenly disappeared out of thin air and appeared again with a box of gold. Is she good or evil? However, she married Li Zhan and gave birth to 3 cubs. She had seen and held those cubs before, but they didn't look like little foxes at all. Xia Huanhuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, Grandma Yao, I am a human. It's just that I may be different from other people. She thought about it and decided to give it a try, so she said again, Grandma Yao, I will try to take you to a place. If you can go there, you will understand. As she said that, she tightly grasped Grandma Yao's hand, closed her eyes, and tried hard to think about bringing her into the space. Before, on the barren mountain, she had tried to bring the injured Li Zhan in, but failed. But the teleportation function of the space can be practiced and used at will, and last time, she also brought the Snow Wolf pack in. It is impossible that animals can be brought in but people can't. Later, she thought of the possibility that the space has the ability to defend and protect the host. Human greed and desire have always been terrible. Bringing animals in will not be too risky. But if she brings humans in casually, it will expose the existence of the portable space, which will bring her unknown dangers. Now, Grandma Yao is almost exhausted, so she decided to take a risk. Xia Huanhuan opened her eyes again and found that she had entered the space, and Grandma Yao was standing next to her. She actually entered her space. Grandma Yao widened her eyes, then raised her hand to wipe her eyes in disbelief. She saw thousands of acres of fertile fields in front of her, all planted with various crops such as grains, cotton, and medicinal herbs, as well as livestock farms. Horses, cattle, and sheep were leisurely eating grass. Large white pigs, chickens, ducks, and geese were everywhere. There were also wild pheasants, wild boars, and wild rabbits that are common in the mountains. Girl, is this heaven? Am I dead? If there are such pleasing crops and livestock and poultry, would you still worry about not having enough to eat? Xia Huanhuan took a big meat bun and gave it to Grandma Yao, saying, Grandma Yao, eat it. Grandma Yao stared at the bun in a daze. Is this thing really edible? Wasn't she dreaming? Or was she in heaven? However, the white and soft meat buns that had just come out of the oven were so tempting that they were worth it even if they were in the heaven of dreams. Grandma Yao took it and took a bite. The meaty aroma filled the air, and her mouth was full of oil. Grandma Yao quickly finished the meat buns. Her empty stomach was comforted, and she felt much better all over. Xia Huanhuan took out another plate of fried dumplings with meat and shrimp fillings and said, Try these fried dumplings too. Grandma Yao didn't hesitate to eat a few more. She felt that she had never eaten anything as delicious as this in her life, except when she was young and worked as a maid and a wet nurse in the Shin family. Xia Huanhuan watched her eat and said, Grandma Yao, this is not a dream. You are still alive. Although you may not believe it, This is my personal space. The food, livestock, and poultry in it can all be taken out and used. Also, the gold I just showed you can also be stored in it. No one can steal it. So, don't worry. I will never steal Aunt Shin's things. Grandma Yao nodded and said, although I don't understand what space is, my daughter, you told me such a big secret, and I have seen how you took care of Wanjie in the past 2 years. I believe you. Xia Huanhuan took Grandma Yao out of the space, and before coming out, she didn't forget to scoop out a bowl of spiritual spring water. Grandma Yao then spoke and told Xia Huanhuan where Shen Wanxue's things were hidden. Then, she asked Xia Huanhuan to take down a loose brick in the corner of the wall inside the bed, took out 3 keys from it, and then put the brick back intact. This key is the key to the box containing those things. As soon as she finished speaking, Grandma Yao started to cough violently and couldn't even breathe. The Qin family members who were already waiting outside impatiently heard this and rushed in.
Mom,
Are you okay? Drink some water.
Mom.
We'll go get you some medicine right now. You must hold on. The 2 eldest sons of the Qin family said. Listening to the meaning of what their mother just said, it was clear that there was something else. Therefore, they have to act more filial now. Xia Huanhuan quickly fed Grandma Yao some spiritual spring water that she scooped out from the space. However, although the spiritual spring water has healing properties, for a person who has reached her final years, it will not cure her illness. It can only make her condition better. Sure enough, after Grandma Yao drank water, her cough gradually subsided, and she was able to speak normally.
I'm fine.
At this time, Qin Shi made batter soup and brought it in, sat on the edge of the bed and fed Grandma Yao to drink. With the food she just ate in the space to fill her belly, and now, with a bowl of batter and soup that was warm in the middle of winter, Grandma Yao felt much better. She looked at a room full of anxious or worried children and grandchildren, couldn't help but sigh, and then said, go dig under the jujube tree in our yard. There is an iron box with 2 gold bars in it. Give them to the boss and the second family respectively. When I die, you can dig them out and divide them. This was given to Shen Wanxue when she secretly transported things to the countryside and asked her to guard them. Something as a thank you. However, Grandma Yao knew the nature of her 2 sons very well and knew that if they had taken them out for family use at that time, the eldest and second family would definitely be quarreling. They may even suspect that she is hiding something secret and force her to take out everything else and divide it. If that is the case, she won't be able to keep the things she asked her to keep that night. That's why she kept it secret for so many years. Who would have thought that Shen Wanxue's dowry for her granddaughter out of kindness would lead to such a mess? Grandma Yao continued, if you know how to live, 1 gold bar per family will be enough for your grandchildren to live richly. If you spend money on gold bars, then this thing will be a disaster.
But
I am also old. I can't control you anymore, so you can do it on your own. The only thing is, this gold bar was given to you, and the little yellow croaker was given to Chi-Chi. If you dare to make trouble and ask her for it, then your mother, cough, cough, cough. Even if I die, I will still ask you to beat you. After hearing this, Chen Lao Er immediately beamed and agreed excitedly. Mom, don't worry. Our family is just too poor. We always quarrel over trivial matters, right? With gold bars, we brothers will definitely not be at odds with each other anymore. Mom, let's go and dig out the gold first, so it's not safe for outsiders to hear about it. The 2 brothers, as well as their wives, sons and daughters, all rushed to dig under the jujube tree in the yard. The door almost fell apart due to the squeeze. Only Grandma Yao, Qin Shi, Wu Feng, and Xia Huanhuan were left in the room. After Grandma Yao finished speaking, as if she had exhausted all her strength, she lay back on the bed and began to stare. Grandma, you can drink some more. Qin Shi cried, wanting to feed Grandma Yao some more noodle soup. Grandma Yao shook her head and said, Grandma is full. Give the rest to your eldest brother and the second brother's little boy to drink later. The 2 boys were so eager just now. As she said that, she looked at Xia Huanhuan again, angrily. Yusi said, daughter. My sister Wanner. I just leave it to you. As he spoke, a tear slowly flowed down from the corner of his wrinkled eye. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help feeling sad, nodded heavily and said, Grandma Yao, don't worry. I'm here. In the yard, Chen Lao Er and Chen Lao Er finally dug out the iron box and couldn't wait to open it to see what was inside. Wrapped in silk, aren't they golden gold bars? Each stick weighs 150 grams. The Qin family were going crazy with joy, but they didn't dare to say anything. They held the iron box and hurried into the house. Chen Lao Er and Chen Lao Er almost fought over who was holding the iron box. Suddenly, Qin Qi's mournful cry came from Grandma Yao's room. Grandma Yao passed away. Naturally, Qin Qi wanted to stay at her parents' house to help with arrangements, so she asked Wu Feng to ride his bicycle and send Xia Huanhuan off. Go back, come again. Xia Huanhuan asked him to go back to Chen's house, otherwise there would be more trouble. The key is that she needs to go to the place where Grandma Yao told her to dig out Xin Wanqua's things and take them away. The place where the things were hidden was behind a small mountain temple in the nearby mountains. Xia Huanhuan took out a shovel from the space and dug for a long time. Sure enough, he dug out 3 large camphorwood boxes, all of which were locked. Xia Huanhuan didn't even open it to see what was inside, so she put the 3 camphorwood boxes into the space, filled them back with soil, and covered them up with withered grass and leaves. Then she entered the space and returned directly home. In the evening, Xia Huanhuan was going to find Xin Wanqua and tell her about the death of Grandma Yao. However, before she got there, she saw Xin Wanqua walking towards her home. Xia Huanhuan knew where she had probably heard the letter. He went up to her and went back to his room with her. Xin Wanqua's eyes were red and she asked, Huanhuan, I heard from the village that Grandma Yao passed away. Is it true? Xia Huanhuan nodded and comforted. Aunt Xin, don't be too sad. Grandma Yao is old, and there is nothing she can do about it. Xin Wanqua raised her clothes and wiped her tears, waved her hands, and then said after a long time, Auntie also knows. She has taken care of me since I was a child. Who grew up drinking her milk, died, but he couldn't even see her for the last time or give her a ride.
Sigh.
She lived such a hard life, and I don't know if she has any eat a full meal before leaving. Xia Huanhuan said, Don't worry, Grandma Yao left well fed. They made big steamed buns and fried dumplings, all stuffed with meat. It's peaceful. My family is with me by the bedside. I'm not alone. Apart from the fact that the steamed buns and fried dumplings were not made by the Qin family and that the Qin family was digging gold in the yard at that time, she didn't lie about anything else. Moreover, with Qin Qi, Wu Feng and her accompanying her, Grandma Yao didn't feel lonely when she left. After hearing this, Xin Wanqua sat in silence for a while without saying anything, and then she came back to her senses and said, Oh, I just heard that you went to see Grandma Yao at that time, so I came here to ask about the situation. Nothing else, you guys go to sleep, I'm back. Xia Huanhuan pulled Xin Wanqua and said, Auntie, come with me. Xin Wanqua was stunned for a moment, but she followed Xia Huanhuan obediently. Walk. When she arrived in the back room, Xin Wanqua saw 3 large camphor-wood boxes. The 8 corners of the box were wrapped with silver. If it wasn't the things she and her husband had secretly transported here, what else could they have asked Grandma Yao to help hide? Xin Wanqua looked at the box blankly, and then looked at Xia Huanhuan. This. Xia Huanhuan whispered, Auntie, Grandma Yao called me over before she left, just to give you to the person you entrusted to me. Let me keep her things and pass them on to you. As she said this, she gave Xin Wanqua the 3 keys. Xin Wanqua took the key with trembling hands, walked tremblingly to the 2 camphor-wood boxes, wiped the lust off with trembling hands, and shed tears uncontrollably. When she and Jinbong felt that something was wrong, they secretly packed up all the things left by their ancestors and sent them to the countryside, where Yao's mother helped guard them. After all these years, I never thought I would have the opportunity to see this camphor-wood box again with my own eyes. Xin Wanqua looked at it for a moment, and then used the key to unlock the box. Xia Huanhuan hurriedly said, Auntie, you don't have to open it. It's hard for you to take these things with you now. Just like Grandma Yao, I'll help you collect them first. If you need anything, just tell me, and tell me yourself. Come and get it. You don't have to let me see what's inside. It's not that I'm not curious about what's inside, but curiosity is what it is. She didn't want Aunt Shen to misunderstand. But Shen Wanxue clapped her hand and said softly, Huan Huan, I can trust you as a person. If you want to keep this for yourself, you don't have to tell me that Grandma Yao entrusted you with the things. Today, if Andy doesn't opening it would be an insult to you. As he spoke, he opened the boxes one by one. When he opened it, even Xia Huan Huan was shocked. I saw only 3 boxes. One contained gold bars and small yellow croakers, another contained jades, gold ornaments, etc., and the third contained various bronzes, porcelain, calligraphy, and paintings, etc. Every box is priceless. Aunt Shen Wanxue sighed and said, Oh, this is what our Shen and Rong families have accumulated over several generations. We sold and donated a lot during the war years, and this is what is left. Fortunately, I was lucky. It's still preserved. Huan Huan, are you really willing to keep it for the time being? In this era, preserving these things is not an easy task. Although Xia Huan Huan just said that Grandma Yao died peacefully, with her sons, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren accompanying her. But she still listened to the chain reaction caused by the incident of Qin Shi's little yellow croaker. After all, it was the thing she entrusted that caused the trouble. Return it to you intact. Shen Wanxue nodded, handed the key back to Xia Huan Huan, and said, Then I'll leave it to you. This matter has come to an end. Xia Huan Huan didn't pay much attention to the subsequent events of the Qin family, but Chen Lao heir and Chen Lao heir did manage to organize Grandma Yao's funeral in a decent way. Whether it was because they got rich, they wanted to bet. Regardless of whether she has a filial reputation or whether she really feels guilty for her mother, Grandma Yao is also busy behind her, although this excitement is not worth the bowl of noodle soup in front of her. Behind her, Chen Lao is also sharing. However, after they separated, their son and daughter-in-law also started to quarrel with them, and later they also separated. Anyway, it took a long time, and finally caused a rift between the father, son, and brother, which was quite annoying. It was so sad. Xia Huan Huan looked at her little cubs, thinking that if they grew up and became like that, she would be really angry. Xiaowen and Xiao were doing their homework, and she felt Xia Huan Huan. They seemed to be quite well behaved these days, and they didn't do anything to deserve a beating. Why did their mother look at them like this? Mom, did we do it? What happened? Just remind us, and we will change it. Xiaowen and Xiaowu made eye contact with each other for a long time, and finally the eldest brother Xiaowen asked. Xia Huan Huan was stunned for a moment, and then she realized what she was doing. She couldn't help laughing at her unfounded worries. How old are these brats? She was a bit unfounded. Moreover, she will definitely educate them well and instill a correct outlook on money and life, so that this kind of thing will never happen. If they really dare to cause trouble for a little money in the future, then whether it's adopted or biological, she will never get used to it. It's okay. Mom is thinking about something. You do your homework. Xiao and Xiaowu breathed a sigh of relief and continued to do his homework. 2 days later, news came from Luo Cheng that Li Zhan's eldest sister, Li Zhaodi, was looking for him. The widower Li Zhaodi originally married. A few years after the marriage, he dead. She was a widow for several years, with 2 children. Later, a matchmaker in the village helped her get married, and she married a divorcee. Within 2 years, she moved again. It took so long to find out. No, this is the address. Luo Cheng handed the address to Xia Huan Huan. Xia Huan Huan took it and said, Thank you. Luo Cheng grinned and said, If you really want to thank me, do more business with me, and we can make a lot of money together. Xia Huan Huan looked at him and said, You have made a lot of money doing this over the years, right? Still not satisfied? Luo Cheng shrugged and said with a smile, Who thinks it's too much money? By the way, the courtyard house you asked Dahe to pay attention to before was said to have a unique style and was quite suitable. You can go and have a look when you go to Beijing to visit relatives again. After hearing this, Xia Huan Huan nodded and asked, How are you doing with brother Li Zhao? Poor or rich? How is your character in the village? Luo Cheng replied, Who can live a prosperous life these days? She raised 2 children herself, and her second husband also raised 2. Later, they gave birth to 3 more children. There were 6 or 7 children in the family, so it was probably not easy. However, they are decent people, reasonable and enthusiastic, and the couple has a good reputation in the village. Xia Huanhuan thanked him again, said goodbye to him, and left. After arriving home, she wrote an anonymous letter directly, telling Li Xiaodi that Lu Lan sold the dragon jade pendant for 50 yuan, but the money was given directly to the second son, Li Chang. After thinking about it, he wrote in the letter that the eldest brother of the Li family had passed away 2.5 years ago. It was already around the 20th of the 12th lunar month after I sent the letter. 2 days later, it is the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month, celebrating the new year, and then there is a queue cleaning the house, making tofu, buying meat, killing chickens and fish, cooking oil, posting couplets, making dumplings. The atmosphere of the new year seems to be warm day by day. One day, however, Xia Huanhuan was somewhat disappointed. She wrote letters and sent telegrams asking Li Zhan if he could go home for the new year, but the results were like nothing. She also knew that it was definitely not the case. Li Zhan deliberately didn't reply. He was probably on some secret mission and hadn't seen her letter or telegram yet. But this didn't come for her. Instead, it made her more worried. The more secret the mission, the more dangerous it was for her. I was really afraid that something would happen to Li Zhan. However, there was nothing I could do about it. Xia Huanhuan could only force herself to put aside these worries and prepare for the new year. The new clothes for the 6 children in the family were all from October 10th. I started doing it in January, and it has been completed in the past few days. I will put it on for them on the first day of the new year. The other things, such as firecrackers and red paper for couplets, have been bought and returned to Xiaowen and Xiaowu. I bought a small box of cannons for them to play with. Bebe had 2 bow tie hair ties, which made the little girl happy. She got up early every morning and asked Xia Huanhuan or Lin Yuru to tie her pigtails. There was a sheep at home. There are 6 hens to feed and other household chores, but fortunately, there is no farming in winter, so it is still easier than during the summer and autumn harvests, and the commune also kills the New Year pigs on New Year's Eve. This year, because farmers were allowed to raise pigs at home, Qingshui village had 2 pigs that were not sold, so they were killed. Xia Huanhuan's family would definitely not get much, but she wanted it. Ribs, and pork offal are not oily parts, so people in the village don't want them, so they share a lot of them. There are no other vegetables in winter, just radish and cabbage stew, or sweet and sour pork ribs. Braised pork ribs, wrapped in a coat when oiled, fried pork ribs, etc. are all very delicious. As for the oily meat, Xia Huanhuan bought some and took some out of the space. Anyway, there will definitely be enough for the new year. In addition, I killed a chicken, bought 2 fish, fried vegetarian meatballs, sesame leaves, sweet potato chips, etc. Xia Huanhuan also bought them. In addition, I bought a bag of apples and let them eat at home. On New Year's Eve, Li Xiaodi came back to his parents' house. Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru were making dumplings when they saw Zhou Qiuhe come in and said, "Huanhuan, this is it." What a strange thing. Li Jie's eldest sister, who had not been in contact for more than 10 years after getting married, actually came back today. Xia Huanhuan knew it well, but there was still a surprised expression on his face. Third brother's eldest sister? Is this what third brother said last time? The eldest sister of a 40-year-old widower who married to another county? Zhou Qiuhe said, "If it's not her, who else could it be? Come with me quickly over there."
Ugh.
You knew it in the past. Xia Huanhuan wrote the anonymous letter just to ask Li Xiaodi to come back home. If Li was the stepmother who later married into the Li family, she would be the only one who knew about Shen Wanxue's foster care of the child. So Xia Huanhuan washed her hands and followed them. When she went to the courtyard where Lu Lan and Li Chang lived, she saw Li Xiaodi sitting on the ground, crying sadly, saying, "Xiaojun, why do you have such a miserable life and die at such a young age? Is everyone in your family dead? Why don't you send me a message? Even if you ask me to come back and see you, I can't even do it." Li Xiaodi was only 16 or 17 years old when she got married, and 18 years have passed now. Therefore, she is 35 years old this year, but her hair is already a lot whiter, her face is dark and old, and her figure is a little chubby. She looked like a middle-aged rural woman. Her clothes were patched, and she looked like she had lived a hard life. Li Jia still vaguely remembered her eldest sister's appearance, but now she saw that she was not even 40 years old. The eldest sister who arrived felt a little sad that she was so old, so she walked over to help her up and advised, "Sister, eldest brother has been gone for more than 2 years, so don't be sad. When you cry, I feel uncomfortable." Li Xiaodi raised his head and looked at the dull man in front of him. When she got married and left, Li Jun was 13 years old, Li Jie was 10 years old, and Li Zhan was 8 years old. They were all skinny and thin because they didn't have much to eat. They were followed by 3 younger brothers. She chased her in the bullock cart for a long time, calling sister, sister. She hated her father for marrying her to such an old man, so she was so angry that she refused to look back until the 3rd day. She could no longer pursue them, and as they got farther and farther away, she looked back again and saw the 3 figures standing in the vast winter fields. She only had resentment in her heart at that time, and after taking one look, she turned away. She vowed to sever all ties with her from now on. Not long after she got married, her brothers wrote to her crookedly. At first, she didn't even open it but just threw it on the stove, but later she got over it. It took a while for her to read the letters, but she wouldn't believe them after reading them. As time passed, the letters gradually became less and less, and the last one was gone. Later, her husband fell ill and died, and she became a widow, remarried, and moved away. After moving home, she completely lost contact with her mother's family. Now that Li Xiaodi thinks about these things, she hates herself for being so heartless back then. It's not like her brothers were wrong. As long as she returns a letter, she can't break the relationship with them. It would not have taken 2 or 3 years for her to find out that her eldest brother Xiaojun died in an accident. Wang Guixiang and Li Chang stood aside, looking impatiently at the sudden appearance of someone who had not been in contact for more than 10 years. The eldest sister went back to her parents' home on New Year's Eve. Why did she go back to her parents' home to mourn her? Wang Guixiang said in a weird voice, "It's been 2 years and you're crying now." When my father-in-law and eldest brother died, the family sent letters there. They pretended not to see them at that time, but now they come back to mourn? I think probably she can't make ends meet anymore, so she wants to come back to her parents' home to beg for money. Let me tell you, we have no money. Before she could finish her words, there were 2 loud paw-paw sounds and Li Xiaodi jumped up, rushed to Wang Guixiang, and slapped her twice. Although Wang Guixiang was a little stupid, she was also very powerful. Usually, few people in the village dared to mess with her. Now, she was slapped twice at once, and she was stunned. Li Xiaodi pointed at Wang Guixiang's nose angrily and cursed. "Who are you? When your husband and his mother were fleeing from famine and were about to starve to death, if I hadn't given half a steamed bun to Lulan, your husband would have starved to death on the way to escape from famine. If it weren't for the dowry I got when I got married more than 10 years ago, this family would have starved to death long ago. How can you still be so clamoring here? I'm crying for my eldest brother. None of your business. I'm still coming to your house to beg for money."
Bah!
No matter how poor I, Li Xiaodi, am, I can't eat a grain of rice from your family. After getting married, Li Xiaodi suffered so much grievance. When she was with a man, widows were always surrounded by gossips. If she was still thin-skinned, she would have been bullied. Therefore, over the past 10 years, her temper has been more aggressive than that of men, and much more powerful than Wang Guixiang, a paper tiger. Wang Guixiang was beaten so hard that she covered her cheek with her hands, and her eyes were red. Li Chang rushed over immediately, raising his hand as if to hit Li Xiaodi. But Li Jie had already stood up, standing in front of Li Xiaodi, and confronted Li Chang for tat. "Second brother, what do you want to do? If you are stupid and even dare to hit my eldest sister, don't blame me for fighting you." Xia Huanhuan didn't care about the tense situation. She noticed one key point. When your husband and his mother were fleeing from famine and were about to starve to death, if I hadn't given half a piece of steamed bun to Lulan, your husband would have starved to death on the way. If Lulan was Li Xiaodi's biological mother, Li Xiaodi would definitely not have named her like that. So, her previous guess was correct. Lulan married into the Li family later. Moreover, according to Li Xiaodi, Lulan probably got married to Li's father during the escape from famine. And Li Chang was probably brought here by Lulan. In this way, the number of children in the Li family matches the number when Shen Wanxue fostered Li Zhan, that is, Li Xiaodi, Li Jun, and Li Jie. She will find a chance to ask Li Xiaodi if her biological mother is called Liang Yunxia. If this also matches, then it is almost certain that Li Zhan is the child fostered by Shen Wanxue back then. Li Chang saw that Li Jie was taller and more handsome than himself, so he didn't dare to confront him head-on, so he pulled Wang Guixiang back to the house. Lulan had been standing at the door, and seeing Li Xiaodi's current fierce look, she couldn't help but feel scared. More than 10 years ago, she forced Li's father to agree to this marriage because the widower in Lin County was introduced by her younger brother from her natal family and took in someone. The matchmaker fee was 3 yuan and the betrothal gift from the widower was also more, 20 yuan. Old Man Li didn't agree at first, so she made up some lies about Li Xiaodi and deliberately let Old Man Li know. Old Man Li was angry that his daughter was not decent, and he also wanted to marry far away so that his reputation could be preserved, so he didn't object and went with Lulan. At that time, although Li Xiaodi had a bad temper, she was still well-behaved and sensible. Although she was unwilling, she didn't seek death. For the sake of this family, she still married. How come she has become so fierce in just a dozen years? Looking at the way she beat Wang Guixiang just now, although she felt relieved in her heart, she was more afraid. If Li Xiaodi knew what happened that year, she would definitely come up and slap her in the face. She is not her biological mother, and Old Man Li is dead. Who can she expect to protect her? Li Chang can't even protect his wife. What a coward.
Li
Must be on the side of his own sister. The more Lulan thought about it, the more scared she became. This Li Xiaodi, this time he came back, he might have bad intentions. He came to seek revenge on her. Thinking of this, Lulan didn't say a word, just curled up in the corner and pretended to be pitiful. The villagers heard that the eldest daughter of the Li family, who had not returned home for many years, had returned. They also knew that Li Xiaodi had married a pathetic man, so they all came to the Li family to watch the fun. Lulan thought to herself that if Li Xiaodi and Li Jie made trouble, she would pretend to be wronged. She is old now. As long as she cries and makes a fuss, she must be right. Everyone else has to give in. Li Jie saw that his eldest sister came back, and he cried about his eldest brother's death without even having time to drink a sip of water. He was also afraid that she would really have a conflict with Li Chang, so he pulled Li Xiaodi back to his room first. Sister, you've come back with great difficulty. Come to our house first, sit down, we siblings can have a good talk, and then talk about other things. Li Xiaodi glanced at her younger brother. Her eyes moistened again, and she nodded and agreed. She was now full of resentment and sadness with nowhere to vent, and she might really do something out of the ordinary. After entering the yard, Li Jie quickly asked Zhou Qiuhe to cook so that his eldest sister could eat something first. In Xia Huanhuan's letter, she first wrote that Li Chang secretly sold the jade for a lot of money, and then wrote that the eldest brother of the Li family had passed away. However, Li Xiaodi had been crying just now, and she didn't mention the money from the sale of the jade at all. She didn't seem like a money-grubbing person. Whether it was a disguise or something, she was really sincere when she cried for her eldest brother just now. Therefore, she went home, and after a while, she brought some flour, a small piece of bacon, 2 sausages, a dozen eggs, and dozens of freshly wrapped dumplings, and secretly gave them to Zhou Qiuhe. Zhou Qiuhe was about to refuse. We have everything at home. I just made dumplings this morning, enough to eat. Xia Huanhuan knew that Zhou Qiuhe had just finished her confinement, and there was not only a new little one in the family, but in order to ensure her nutrition during the confinement period, Li Jie had almost eaten up all the refined grains in the house. The dumplings made on New Year's Eve were the only white flour dumplings. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Don't refuse me." She is the eldest sister of 3, And she is also Li Zhan's eldest sister, right? Your family provides meals, so it is only right for my family to provide some things. Besides, it was she who called Li Zhaodi back, and she was counting on her to solve the mystery and help to make trouble with Lu Lan so that the truth would come to light. It was only right for her to give some things out. Seeing this, Zhou Qiuhe knew that her fourth brother's family was well off and was helping her family, so she accepted the gift without further ado. The meat dishes were provided by Xia Huanhuan. Zhou Qiuhe's family also had the inexpensive radishes, cabbages, and spinach. There were also winter bamboo shoots that Li Jie picked from the mountains. Like Xia Huanhuan's family, they were dried in water and dried. Then they got busy. One was fried with bacon with dried bamboo shoots, one was steamed Chinese sausage, one was scrambled eggs with spinach, and there was also stir-fried cabbage. They also cooked a big pot of dumplings. It was considered a sumptuous meal. Xia Huanhuan helped Zhou Qiuhe cook and was about to go back, but was pulled away by Zhou Qiuhe. Li Jie also came over secretly to say that Xia Huanhuan stayed, and asked Huanhuan and Yingying to go home and call Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei to eat together. Dongbao was 3 years old and followed his two sisters. As for the triplets, they could run, but it was too much to take care of so many children at once, so Lin Yuru took them with her and ate dumplings at home. Li Jie and Li Zhaodi sat down in the house. The two siblings hadn't seen each other for many years, and their eyes were red after a few words, but they still learned about each other's situation and recognized Zhou Qiuhe and the children at home one by one. Li Jie asked, "Sister, you finally came back. Why don't you bring all the children at home to recognize your uncle's home?" Li Zhaodi lifted the corner of her clothes to wipe her tears and said, "There are so many children at home. I can't take care of them on the way. It's also the new year. If I bring them all, people will gossip." When she received the letter, it was already the 28th day of the lunar year. When she heard that her elder brother had died in an accident, her heart was devastated. She didn't even buy gifts for visiting relatives for the New Year's Day. She asked her husband to ride a bicycle to the county town overnight, bought a ticket, and took the sea to the county town. She relied on her memory and asked people on the way to get here. "Why didn't you send me a message about Dad's death and Xiaojuan's death?" Li Zhaodi felt very sad when she thought about it. When she knew that her father Li had passed away, she didn't feel so sad. After all, she was resentful towards her father. But Li Jun was her brother, whom she had spoiled and protected since childhood. Li Jie sighed and said, "Why didn't you send me a message?" "But everyone who went there said that you had moved, and all the letters you sent were returned." Li Zhaodi felt very regretful after hearing this. "Alas, I was confused and didn't leave my new address to that village. If it weren't for the letter sent from Qingshui village to my home, I might never have known it in my life." Li Jie was stunned for a moment. A letter sent from Qingshui village? If someone in the village knew the eldest sister's address, it would be impossible for them not to tell the Li family, right?
Who could have sent it?
The key is, how did he know the eldest sister's new address? However, Li Jie couldn't figure it out, so he didn't think about it anymore. The most important thing is that the family who had been separated for many years was reunited. That letter. Maybe God had pity on him? Li Jie took a deep breath and said, "Sister, let's not talk about this. Fourth brother has gone to the army, but his wife is here. This is his wife, Huan. Li Zhaodi was also stunned after hearing this, and asked with concern, "Xiaozhan has gone to the army? He hasn't been injured these years, has he?" Having said that, she looked up at Xia Huanhuan. It didn't matter at first glance, because Xia Huanhuan was obviously dressed like a rural woman, but she was bright and beautiful. Li Zhaodi felt ashamed for some reason and said with a smile, "Is this Xiaozhan's wife? She is so beautiful. She is a perfect match for Xiaozhan." Seeing that Xia Huanhuan's first reaction after hearing that Li Zhan had just joined the army was to ask if Li Zhan had been injured, she liked this elder sister-in-law even more. She smiled and shouted, "Sister, Li Zhan is not at home. Otherwise, she would be happy to see you back." Li Zhaodi was even happier to see Xia Huanhuan was beautiful and could talk. It seems that, except for the eldest brother, the other two brothers are living a good life. Li Jie pointed at Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei and said, "Also, these are the 3 children left by the eldest brother. They are now living with the 4th brother and his wife." Huan Huan also gave birth to triplets for the 4th brother, 3 sons a little over 1 year old, and they were not brought to the family. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were a little afraid of strangers, so they hid behind Xia Huan Huan, poked their heads out, and looked at Li Xiaodi timidly. Li Xiaodi looked down and saw the 3 little guys. Xiaowen and Xiaowu somehow resembled the childhood appearance of her older brother in her memory, and she couldn't help but burst into tears again. While wiping her tears, she remembered something and took out a few things wrapped in red paper from her arms and stuffed them into the hands of Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, Huan Huan, Yingying, and Dongbao. "Here, your aunt came back in a hurry and didn't buy anything. This is your New Year's money. Don't think it's too little." Li Xiaodi wanted to give the little one that Zhou Qiuhe had just given birth to, as well as the triplets, to Zhou Qiuhe and Xia Huan Huan. The children were afraid to take them, and Zhou Qiuhe wanted to refuse, but Xia Huan Huan smiled and said, "It's rare for eldest sister to come back. 3rd sister-in-law, let's not be formal, otherwise eldest sister will feel sad. You too, isn't this given by your eldest aunt? Why don't you wish your eldest aunt a Happy New Year?" The little ones heard it, and Xiaowen was sensible. He obediently shouted first, "Aunt, Happy New Year." As soon as he opened his mouth, the other children also shouted in unison, "Aunt, Happy New Year." Li Xiaodi was both happy and sad. In fact, she regretted over the years that she was too decisive when she was young and broke off ties with her mother's family so completely. Every time she wanted to come back to visit, the travel expenses were too expensive and she couldn't bear to go even one, mainly because she couldn't save face. If she hadn't known that her eldest brother had died early. Everyone sat down to eat and gossip. Xia Huan Huan tried to ask as inconspicuously as possible, "Sister, I just heard what you said in the yard, mother-in-law. Isn't she your real mother-in-law?" Li Jie listened and asked, "Yes, sister. I wanted to ask you too." Li Xiaodi glanced at Li Jie, sighed, and said, "Well, it's not your fault that you don't know. Our family suffered a flood that year. When we fled from home, you were only 3 years old and didn't remember anything. Our biological mother died in the flood. Our father took us 4 siblings and followed the village to flee the famine. On the way, we met Lu Lan and her son, who were almost starving to death. My father asked me to give them half of the steamed bun. Later, we all went together, and not long after, Dad said he wanted to marry Lu Lan. Xiaojun and I cried and said we didn't want to, but Dad didn't listen to us. After Lu Lan married Dad, she was pretty good to us, especially you and Xiaozhan, who were too young and chased after Lu Lan and called her mom. Xiaojun and I couldn't bear to see this, and fearing that you would be sad, we secretly agreed not to tell you too that Lu Lan was not your biological mother." Xia Huan Huan was speechless after hearing this. How stupid is this? Why would she keep it a secret? However, when she first got married, she had seen Lu Lan pretending to be pitiful and instigating others to do things, and she had a good reputation. Unfortunately, after Xia Huan Huan got married, she encountered a series of setbacks, and the allowance given by Li Zhan was gone, and the money she saved was taken away by her own daughter. She couldn't hold it in anymore. Her personality collapsed, and now she has become the laughingstock of the whole village. 20 years ago, it would have been easy for her, an adult, to fool a few children. However, as time went by, her partiality gradually revealed itself. Even Li Jie could sense it. Li Jie was very angry. No wonder she became more and more partial to the second brother. She used the allowance sent back by the 4th brother to marry a wife, and she married the second brother first. After the second brother got married, it was the eldest brother's turn. How could this woman be so bad? Our father is also a fool, and he listens to her in everything. Xia Huan Huan looked up at Li Xiaodi and said softly, "I said so too. If Li Zhan was her biological son, how could a biological mother treat her biological son like that? It turns out. By the way, sister, you said that Lu Lan is not our biological mother-in-law. Then what is the name of the biological mother-in-law?" Li Xiaodi thought of her mother and felt sad again, and then said, "Her name is Liang Yunxia." Alas, we were too young at that time and thought that Lulan was a good person, so we hid it from you and your fourth brother. I'm afraid that my eldest brother also thought about the agreement with me, so he endured it for so many years and never said it. Xia Huanhuan's heart was pounding. It's right. The original mistress of the Li family was called Liang Yunxia, which is the same as what Shen Wanxue said. Li Jie couldn't help but redden his eyes after hearing this. It turns out that my biological mother's name is Liang Yunxia. Sister, why didn't you tell us earlier? I didn't even know my biological mother was called this name. The sadder he felt, the angrier he became. Li Jie couldn't help but say, my fourth brother and I were so wronged. When she got old, she asked my fourth brother to give her 5 yuan a month, and I gave her 200 work points a month for her retirement. But my own son didn't give her a penny. I used to think she was my biological mother, but now I know she isn't. Don't even think about asking me for a single work point in the future. Li Xiaodi remembered another thing mentioned in the letter, and asked, Xiao Jie, did you know that Lu Lan sold our jade for 50 yuan? Did she give any money to you and my fourth brother's family? Li Jie was stunned, bewildered. Sister, what are you talking about? What jade? When did our family have jade? When Li Xiaodi heard this, she was immediately furious. She got up and walked out, saying, Lu Lan, this shameless old thing. Even the jade was kept for herself. I'll go find her. Li Jie, Zhou Qiuhe, and Xia Huanhuan also stood up quickly. Li Jie pulled Li Xiaodi and asked, Sister, what's going on? Tell me first, what kind of jade is in our family? Xia Huanhuan also stared at Li Xiaodi quietly. Now only Lu Lan and Li Xiaodi knew that the Li family had jade. Even Lu Lan might think that the jade originally belonged to the Li family. Only Li Xiaodi knew that the jade was left by Xin Wanxue as a keepsake. If she wanted to keep the jade and said it was an heirloom of the Li family, almost no one could expose her. What would Li Xiaodi say? Li Xiaodi said, I'll tell you later. The first thing to do is to get the jade back. As he said that, he pulled Li Jie and walked out the door. Lu Lan had Li Chang on her side. The mother and son, including the daughter-in-law, were all vested interests. If she, a woman, went over to make trouble, Li Chang might really beat her, so she had to pull Li Jie over. Zhou Qiuhe didn't know what was going on either, so Xia Huanhuan pulled her over to watch the fun. When they arrived at Lu Lan's door, Li Xiaodi went straight up and knocked on the door. Lu Lan, get out here. Lu Lan was panicked. Li Xiaodi had just been pulled away by Li Jie, and now he came here again. Was he going to cause trouble for her? Is there anything? Just say it outside the door. I feel dizzy, and I fell asleep. Li Xiaodi didn't buy it. He raised his foot and kicked the door bang bang bang, sneering. If you don't open the door, don't blame me for kicking your door into pieces. Don't complain about the cold in the winter. What a thing! What wicked things you have done. Hearing this, Lu Lan had to get up and open the door. She is different now. Her sons don't care about her anymore. If the door is kicked in, no one will care about her. Lu Lan opened the door and asked timidly, his elder sister, what do you want to talk to Mom? And me about? Back then, she made up rumors about Li Xiaodi and forced her to marry far away, but that was also for the survival of the whole family, right? There was a severe drought in those years, and the fields were barren. Without the betrothal money, the family would have starved to death long ago. Although she and her brother from her natal family embezzled several pieces of the betrothal money. Could Li Xiaodi have come back just for this matter? Li Xiaodi said with a cold face, Lu Lan, let me ask you, where is the jade in your home? Because of Li Xiaodi's voice, Li Chang and Wang Guixiang also came out. Hearing Li Xiaodi's words, Li Chang and Wang Guixiang subconsciously looked at each other, feeling a little guilty. When Lu Lan heard it, her face changed immediately. Well, Wang Guixiang was probably right. Li Xiaodi's life was poor and unhappy, so she came back to her mother's house to beg for money. Moreover, she was planning to take the jade in her hand. What jade? Where can we get jade in our family? The one you saw before was sold for money when your father was seriously ill. Lu Lan said loudly. Li Xiaodi sneered. Did my father use it when he was seriously ill? Lu Lan, you are lying with your eyes open. Even if my father dies of illness, he will never touch that piece of jade. Although Old Man Li married Lulan later, it was actually Lulan who took the initiative on the one hand, and on the other hand, it was also because he was a man with 3 or 4 children and felt that the children would be pitiful without a mother. Lulan was also a person who was good at making a scene, but Li Xiaodi could still trust her character. That jade was a token left by someone, and they might come to take it away at any time. When the family was washed away by the flood, and they were begging for food on the road to escape famine and were almost starving to death, Old Man Li didn't touch it. He would never touch it when he was seriously ill. Li Xiaodi continued, "Do you think I don't know that you dared to let your precious son, Li Chang, sell the jade on the black market some time ago? He sold it for 50 yuan. Lulan was stunned when she heard this. Did she ask Li Chang to sell jade some time ago? How is it possible? The jade is still buried next to Li Lao's grave at the west end of the village. She is the only one who knows the place."
Wait.
Why did she say that Wang Guixiang suddenly became rich during the Spring Festival this year? The whole family bought cloth and cotton to make new cotton-padded clothes, and the family also cut 5 pounds of meat for the Spring Festival. She also shared a kitchen with them and could smell the meat coming from their house. But when she went to ask for it, Li Chang and Wang Guixiang said they didn't have it, and they didn't give her a piece of meat. Now think about it. Where did they get the money? Could it really be her jade? Thinking of this, Lulan couldn't sit still anymore and ran to the west end of the village. That jade. But it's her last hope. She used to have savings and was not in a hurry to cash in the jade. Now, she has no savings left, and this winter is particularly cold. Her thin quilt is not warm, and she is freezing to death. She had been thinking about it these days. After the Chinese New Year, she would go to the black market to exchange the jade for money, buy some meat for herself, and make a new cotton quilt. Seeing this, everyone followed Lulan to the west of the village. Lulan dug for a long time and found a broken box that originally contained jade. But where did the jade come from? Where is my jade? How is it possible? I clearly buried it here. Who stole my jade? Combined with what Li Xiaodi said just now, Lulan suddenly looked at Li Chang and Wang Guixiang. Li Chang and Wang Guixiang were still pretending to be calm, but Lulan suddenly rushed towards them like crazy. Li Chang, you are such an unfilial son. You rascal. Together with your wife, you even dare to steal your own mother's things. Are you still a human being? You watched your mother suffer from cold and hunger, and you stole your mother's things to buy meat and a cotton-padded jacket for your wife. I will beat you to death. I will beat you to death, you beast.
Ah,
my jade. Lulan cried and screamed, hitting, scratching, and hitting Li Chang with her head. The onlookers in the village had not completely dispersed. Since Lulan ran to the grave of Li's father in a hurry to dig the soil, many onlookers followed. Now, seeing Lulan fighting with her son, no one came up to persuade them to stop fighting, and they all watched with interest. Wang Guixiang and Li Chang did not fight back because they were in the wrong, but seeing that Lulan was endless, they became impatient and raised their hands to push Lulan to the ground, almost breaking Lulan's ace in half. You've had enough of making trouble. I didn't fight back, but you're still getting excited, right? Li Chang scolded with a dark face. Wang Guixiang also said, "That's right. Mother-in-law, we didn't fight back because you are our elder. You're not done yet. We haven't even seen your jade. You are old and confused, you put it in the wrong place, or someone else stole it, don't blame us." Now, even if they are beaten to death, they must insist that the jade was not stolen by them. Otherwise, why did Li Xiaodi come back? Wasn't it for the jade? If they let it slip, the 30 yuan they sold with great difficulty will have to be divided among the family, and in the end, his family will be lucky to get 5 yuan. This even includes the travel expenses to Beijing.
Why?
Besides, they have almost spent the 30 yuan, and now if they are asked to take it out, where will they get the money? After hearing what his wife said, Li Chang also reacted and said, "That's right. You hid the jade next to my father's grave. Now it's the new year. Who knows if someone found it when visiting the grave and secretly dug it away." As soon as these words came out, The villagers who were watching the fun were unhappy. He was just eating melons, and he was suspected of stealing the jade buried in front of someone's grave? Isn't this disgusting? Someone shouted immediately, Li Lauer, you rascal, you can't even wash the shoot pot on your own head, so you want to put it on the villagers? If you dare to make another false accusation, I will beat you to death. That's right. You two are idle all day long, like to take advantage of others, and even steal people's underwear that is hung outside. You are notorious for this, and you still have the nerve to pretend to be innocent? I think it is probably you two who stole it. It's hard to guard against thieves in the house. The thief cries, catch the thief. I said that I came back from the county town in the middle of the night a few days ago, and when I walked over here, I saw two sneaky shadows squatting and digging the soil in front of old man Li's grave. I thought it was a ghost and scared me to death. Now, I think it's probably the two thieves. That's right. And Li Chong went to Jingshi a few days ago. I guess he went to sell jade. The villagers talked one after another, and soon there was evidence. After hearing this, Lulan came up and tried to tear Wang Guixiang's mouth. Wang Guixiang, you witch. It's you who taught my son to be bad. Give me my jade back. Wang Guixiang refused to let her go, so they started fighting. Lulan was old, so how could she win? After a while, she was pushed to the ground again. Wang Guixiang was not much better, and she was hit on the face with 2 claws, which was bloody. After hearing this, Li Xiaodi knew that the jade might have really been sold. His heart immediately sank, and he said angrily, You two, stop acting. You must have sold the jade together. Lulan, Li Chong, I tell you, you have to return the jade today, otherwise I will never let you go. Wang Guixiang sneered. Never let us go?
What?
Can't you eat us up? Humph. You said you didn't come back to beg for money. You just took a fancy to the jade and wanted to share the 30 yuan from selling it.
Right?
Li Xiaodi, let go. Li Xiaodi didn't hesitate to take action. He went up and grabbed Wang Guixiang's hair and pulled it. 30 yuan? Wang Guixiang? The jade was clearly sold for 50 yuan. How come it became 30 yuan when it came to you? You still dare to say you didn't sell it? Li Jie stood in front of Li Chong and said coldly, Second brother, I heard this. The jade was left by my father. Even if it is sold for money, it should be divided among the Li Jie family. You and your mother took it all and sold it privately. Isn't that unfair? If you don't make things clear today, I will report it to the commune, the town, and the county. You and your son are teaming up to steal our Li family's things. Li Jie knew that Li Chong was brought by Lulan, and the remaining brotherhood was gone. He said coldly. He didn't know the origin of the jade yet, so he thought that if it was really the jade left by his father, the money from the sale should at least be divided equally among the families, right? The eldest sister got 1 share. The eldest brother was gone, but the 3 children were still there, so they also got 1 share. There was also a share for him and Li Zhan, and Li Chong and Lulan could also be counted as their own. What's the point of Li Chong taking it all for himself? It's depressing to think about it. Do you think that all the Li family members are dead? Even if the money is not much, it can't be cheap for them. Li Chong was also a little scared when he heard this. The villagers saw the couple digging things in the middle of the night. Although they were their own things, he was not the biological son of the Li family, so he might really be convicted of theft. That jade. I took it to Beijing to sell, thinking I could get a good price for it, but I only sold it for 30 yuan. Where could I get 50 yuan? My round-trip fare, and your sister-in-law and I are used to spending lavishly, so we spent it all. Li Jie sneered. Just because you said it was spent, you're going to deny it? You wish. Just write an IOU after it's spent. All your work points and income next year will be used to pay off the debt. When it's paid off, it's settled. When Li Xiaodi heard that the jade was really gone, she was anxious and angry. She walked up and pushed Li Chong. You beast. Where did you sell the jade? Go and find it for me. Li Jie was stunned for a moment after hearing this and said, Sister, I'm afraid the jade was really sold, and it was sold in Beijing, and it's probably gone. If you're short of money, I don't want my share, and there's 4th brother's share. I believe 4th brother and 4th brother's wife will definitely agree to give it to you. Eldest sister. Li Xiaodi looked at Li Jie and said angrily, Shao Jie, even you think your sister came back for the jade and to get the money? Who do you think your sister is? The jade is not ours. We kept it for them. What if they come looking for us and the jade is gone? What can we give them back? Xia Huanhuan felt a little relieved after hearing this. It seems that the people of the Li family are all good people. Shen Wanxue entrusted the jade to the right person after all. Li Jie was even more confused. Sister, you said the jade is ours one moment, and then you said it's not. What's going on? Li Xiaodi glanced at Xia Huanhuan, sighed, and said, We have kept this secret for so many years. Let's just talk about it today. Then, she said that Li Zhan was not their biological brother, but a couple who were fostered in the Li family, and that the jade was a token of love.
Everyone was dumbfounded.
Lulan didn't look surprised, and it was obvious that she had known it all along. Li Xiaodi glared at Lulan with hatred. My fourth brother is so old now. Even if his parents don't come to look for him, we should return the jade to him, tell him the truth, and let him find his biological parents by himself. My father must have told Lulan. I really didn't expect that Lulan would keep it a secret.
Bah.
I guess she just wants to steal the jade and keep it for herself. Lulan shrank back. Li Xiaodi really guessed it right. When Li's father was dying, he told Lulan to give the jade to Li Zhan and tell him the truth. He also said that he let the child go to the army at such a young age, and he was sorry for his parents.
He died.
But although Li Zhan had only been in the army for a few years at that time, he had already sent most of his allowance back home every month. In addition, Lulan was greedy for the jade pendant that Li's father took out and gave to her before he died. If Li Zhan was told that he was not Father Li's son, then the jade would be gone. What if Li Zhan stopped sending his allowance home? Fortunately, she was the only one there when Father Li said this, so Lulan concealed it with a clear conscience. Li Jie was silent for a while, then suddenly rushed to Li Chong, raised his hand and grabbed Li Chong's collar, dragged him to the ground screaming, and asked sternly, Second brother Li, you come with me to Beijing now to get the jade back. How much care has their family received from fourth brother and Xia Huanhuan in the past few years? Now that they know that the jade is related to Li Zhan's life experience, how can they just let it go? If there is no jade, what proof will Li Zhan have to recognize his biological parents? Li Chong had never seen Li Jie so serious and scary before, and he laughed so hard that his whole body was hairy. Li Laosan. No, third brother, let's talk it out nicely. Second brother.
Didn't I say, is the jade sold?
Beijing is so big. We can't find it even if we go there. And we have to pay for the trip. The jade. It only sold for 30 yuan, it's not worth much. Besides, even if we find a buyer, we need money to buy the jade back. Seeing that we are in a hurry, they may ask for a huge amount of money. Where are we going to get the money? Li Jie corrected him coldly. It's not us, but you. You, your wife, and your mother. Where are you going to get the money? Don't you have it on hand? I don't care if you smash your pot or sell your belongings to buy a house. Just get the money together. Are they going to ask for a huge amount of money? Even if the price goes up to 100 yuan, you have to give me the jade back. Otherwise, you can try. The unspoken threat was even more terrifying, especially since Li Jie looked like he wanted to eat someone. Li Chong was a bully and only feared the strong. Seeing Li Jie like this, he was so scared that his legs went limp and he had no choice but to cry and beg. Third brother. Third brother, can't I go and borrow money? Let me go first. Li Jie didn't say much. He pushed Li Chong to the ground with his arm and then said coldly, I'll give you 1 day. If you borrow the money, I'll go to Beijing with you. The longer time passes, the lower the possibility of getting it back, but without money, it is difficult to move forward. Li Jie actually did not expect Li Chong to get the money, mainly to leave himself time to raise money. Of course, he did not intend to be a sucker. No matter how much money he spent on looking for the jade this time, he would count it on Li Chong, and he would definitely get the debt back in the future. Xia Huanhuan looked at the scene in front of her. To be honest, her heart was warm, and she was really moved. Li Jie did not know the origin of the jade at first, and was still thinking about dividing the money, but after knowing it, he was like Li Zhaodi, not asking for money, but thinking about how to get the jade back. Li Zhan is blessed to have such an elder sister and brother. Xia Huanhuan walked over and said softly, "Eldest sister, third brother, I thank you on behalf of Li Zhan." Li Zhaodi said apologetically, "Huanhuan, don't say that. It is our Li family that is sorry for Xiao Zhan. If I had come back to my parents' home earlier, I wouldn't."
Alas.
Xia Huanhuan didn't say anything more and asked softly, "Sister, it's getting late, and it's New Year's Eve this year. You should stay here today. My house has a place to stay and bedding. Stay at my house tonight, and let's celebrate the New Year together as a family." Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhua also tried to persuade her to stay. Zhou Qiuhua witnessed a series of events that happened today as if she was listening to a storyteller.
She just felt that.
Fourth brother's life experience was more bizarre and tortuous than the legends told by the storyteller, and she was stunned. Only then did she come back to her senses. Li Zhaodi didn't refuse too much, so she agreed, and couldn't help sighing. Alas. How nice it would be if Xiao Zhan was at home. I haven't seen him for more than 10 years. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Sister, don't be sad. We relatives should visit each other more often in the future, and we will have a chance to see each other." If Li Zhaodi was a greedy person and came back just to share the money from selling the jade, Xia Huanhuan would not plan to have any dealings with her in the future. But since her heart was good, she would naturally be happy to become related to her. Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhua also said, "Yes, big sister. In the future, if you don't come back to your parents' home often, we will have to bring our families to visit your relatives." Li Zhaodi felt warm in her heart, and her nose couldn't help but feel sour when she heard this. She was really... How could she be so stupid when she was young, ignoring such good brothers and breaking off relations?
Hey.
As long as you are still willing to recognize me as your big sister, I am not afraid that you will be bored. You must come back often in the future. Li Jie smiled and said, "Next time, bring your brother-in-law and the kids at home." In the evening, after eating the New Year's Eve dinner, Li Zhaodi also met the triplets and liked them very much. The three little kids are smart and sweet-mouthed. After Xia Huanhuan taught them for a while, they could vaguely call Li Zhaodi aunt. Li Zhaodi was so happy. She couldn't help being moved. She had heard from Li Jie that Li Zhan now has an allowance of several hundred yuan a month and lives a prosperous life. Who in her and Li Jie's family is not living a tight life? They are just two old relatives. If other people knew that she and Li Jie were not real sisters and brothers, they would probably stay away from them immediately. How could anyone be like Xia Huanhuan, who let her son call her aunt? Li Jie thought similarly, so he secretly pulled Xia Huanhuan aside and said, "Huanhuan, let me tell you something." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and asked with a smile, "Third brother, what's the matter? So serious?" Li Jie looked at Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, then said, "In the future, let Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei live with our family." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then she understood, and said with a smile, "Third brother, do you think Li Zhan is not your biological brother, so you want to take Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei back?" Li Jie glanced at her and said, "They are my eldest brother's children after all. There is no reason for you and Li Zhan to raise them." Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly and said softly, "Third brother, my personal opinion is that the household registration of the three little guys is under the name of Li Zhan and me. I don't plan to give them up and let you, third brother, raise them."
Li Zhan.
"I think even if he knows that he is not your biological brother, he will not agree to this."
But.
She smiled. "Li Zhan is not at home after all. Let's put this matter aside and discuss it when Li Zhan comes back, okay?" After listening to this, Li Jie also thought it made sense, so he nodded and agreed. That night, Li Zhaodi lived in the 2 rooms built by Li Jun. Later, Xia Huanhuan used the cotton and cloth in the space to make several quilts, and took out an old set to make the bed for Li Zhaodi to sleep on. Li Zhaodi touched the thick quilt. Even though it was old, she was moved and asked worriedly, "Huanhuan, you really don't let me sleep on the quilt on your bed?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Really not. It's an old one we used before. The ones on the bed in our room are all new. Sister, you can sleep well. Li Xiaodi felt relieved after listening to this. When Xia Huanhuan returned home, she went to Shen Wanxue. As soon as she went out from the back door, she saw Shen Wanxue waiting outside the back door. Xia Huanhuan hurriedly said, "Auntie, it's so cold. Why didn't you call me when you came?" Shen Wanxue's eyes were red, and she asked in a trembling voice, "Huanhuan, what your eldest sister-in-law said during the day, are they all true?" During the day, Shen Wanxue didn't dare to go forward to watch the excitement, but Li Xiaodi came home for the first time in more than 10 years, and as soon as he came home, he set off such a big gossip. The villagers were discussing it heatedly. It was impossible for Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi and others not to hear anything. Shen Wanxue was feeding the cows with grass, and it was Yang Qiushi who went to the river to fetch water for the cows and came back and told Shen Wanxue about the discussions of the villagers he heard at the river. Shen Wanxue was stunned at first, and then she was so excited and worried that she couldn't sit still. Although she wanted to run over to confirm with Xia Huanhuan immediately, she was worried that it would affect her and Li Zhan. Shen Wanxue had to force herself to wait until dark. Yang Qiushi saw that she was restless and was almost gored by the cows while feeding them, so he took over her work and asked her to go back to the house to rest. Shen Wanxue went back to the house and took out the new clothes she made for her son every year from the box. This year's cotton-padded jacket was the one Xia Huanhuan saw a few days ago. She couldn't help crying for several times with both grievance and joy while holding it. When it was dark, she didn't even bother to eat. She didn't feel hungry either, so she ran to the backyard of Xia Huanhuan's yard with a cotton-padded jacket. However, she was afraid that the eldest sister who came back from the Li family was also at her house, so she waited in the cold wind until now. Xia Huanhuan grabbed Shen Wanxue's hand, shivering with coldness, and asked hurriedly, "Auntie, how long have you been waiting?" Xia Huanhuan began to blame herself. Her hands were almost frozen. She had been waiting for at least an hour. She knew Shen Wanxue's feelings best and shouldn't have waited until now to tell Shen Wanxue about this. Shen Wanxue smiled quickly and said, "Annie has only been here for a while and didn't wait long. Huanhuan, you tell Auntie first." Xia Huanhuan came back to her senses and replied, "Auntie, it's all true. Let's go in first and I'll tell you slowly." When Shen Wanxue heard the words, "It's all true," she couldn't hold back any longer and tears burst out. However, when she cried, she looked like a lady from a noble family. She didn't cry loudly, but was just speechless. Even Xia Huanhuan was scared, and she said at a loss, "Auntie." Shen Wanxue waved her hands, fearing that she would cry out loud as soon as she opened her mouth and be heard by others. She raised her hand and kept wiping her tears, but no matter how hard she wiped, they seemed to not dry. Xia Huanhuan had no choice but to pull Shen Wanxue into the house. Seeing this, Lin Yuru was also shocked and asked, "Sister Shen, what sad thing has happened to you?" Xia Huanhuan whispered, "Mom, you take the kid to sleep first. I'll talk to Aunt Shen for a while." After listening, Lin Yuru said, "Okay. You should persuade her well. There is no hurdle in this world that cannot be overcome. Tell her not to hurt herself." Then, she took Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei to bed. There was a coal stove burning in the room where Xia Huanhuan lived. The triplets had been coaxed to sleep by Lin Yuru. Now seeing their mother coming back, they all shouted in a daze, "Mom, go to sleep." Shen Wanxue and the others also knew her. After recognizing her for a while, they followed and shouted, "Grandma." Shen Wanxue couldn't help but burst into tears after hearing this. If Li Zhan was really her son, then these three little guys would be her grandsons.
Oh,
"It's Grandma. Yen yen yi yao yao, be good. You guys go to sleep." Xia Huanhuan first started to add more coal to the stove to make it burn more vigorously, and then he pulled Shen Wanxue to sit down in front of the stove. Then Shen Wanxue asked eagerly and worriedly, "Huanhuan, tell my aunt quickly. What did your eldest sister say?" Xia Huanhuan told Shen Wanxue what she heard from Li Xiaodi. It turns out that Lu Lan and his father-in-law were hit by a flood. They met on the way to escape the famine and lived together. The second brother Li Zhan was also brought by Lu Lan. The children who came here were not the children of the Li family. In this way, the Li family's children will be matched up with you when you foster your own son. Also, I asked, and their mother's name is Liang Yunxia, the eldest, and also said that the jade from the Li family was a keepsake left by Li Zhan's biological parents. Auntie, the details are all right. Li Zhan, I'm afraid he is your son. Shen Wanshua listened while crying, and then asked eagerly, have you ever asked what the Li family's jade looks like? Are you and Fengpei a couple? Also, why did their original surname change to Li? Even if they are inseparable, Shen Wanshua is still afraid that the incompatibility between these 2 points will make her end up with nothing in the bamboo basket and all the joy. How could it be such an unlucky coincidence that the jade was killed by Lu? Were Lan and her son sold? Shen Wanshua didn't care about you, but without Yu's testimony, she felt really uneasy. Xia Huanhuan looked at Shen Wanshua, then took out the thing wrapped in a handkerchief from her arms and whispered said, Madam, look at this jade. Is it the one you left for the Li family back then? The handkerchief was opened, and Shen Wanshua stared at the pair of dragon and phoenix pendants wrapped in it with wide eyes in shock. The jade is gentle and exquisitely carved. If it is not a family heirloom of their Shen family, what else could it be?
Huan, this.
Shen Wanshua never thought that this dragon pendant would be in Xia Huanhuan's hands. I didn't care either. Later, their son and daughter let it slip that their parents were going to Beijing to sell jade, and after selling the jade, they would go live in the county and become city dwellers. After hearing these words, Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, and others came back to tell me. I paid attention, and when Li Chong went to Beijing, I followed him. I didn't expect that what he was selling was really a dragon pendant. I saw that this jade was a pair of the jade you gave me, so I asked someone to help me buy it. I didn't come forward myself, so no one knew. Xiao and Xiaowu and Beibei did not lie about what Li Xing said. However, when Xiao and Xiaowu told her, the jade was already in her hands. After hearing this, Shen Wanshua also tolerated. She couldn't help but be stunned. Such a coincidence. It seems that God is really helping her to find her son.
Then, Li Zhen.
Is he really my son? Xia Huanhuan nodded and said with a smile, Madam, I'm afraid it's true. Moreover, Li Zhan told you before that his birthday was in January. I asked him about it later, and he said that it was because he was not old enough to join the army at that time, so he applied for an extra year. In fact, it was that year. The 11th day of the 12th lunar month. The 11th day of the 12th lunar month. Shen Wanshua will never forget this day until she dies. It's her son's birthday. Yes. Yes. That's right. It's really all right. Fight him hard. She turns out to be really my son. I finally found my son. Zhenbang. Our son has been found. Shen Wanshua cried with joy and kept lifting the corner of her clothes to wipe her tears. Xia Huanhuan felt very sad when she saw it, and hurriedly advised, Auntie, don't be sad. That's a good thing, isn't it? I will send a telegram to Li Zhan tomorrow and ask him to go home immediately when he is free, and we will tell him about this. Shen Wanshua kept nodding, but then immediately shook her head and said, No. But it's not possible for his father and I to have the current status. We still can't recognize each other. If it affects Li Zhan's future. Huan, please promise your aunt not to tell Li Zhan yet, okay? As long as the aunt knows that he is still alive and well, she will be satisfied. Over the past 20 years, we have failed to fulfill our responsibilities as parents. Now, why are we still embarrassed to acknowledge him and drag him down? Xia Huanhuan heard this and knew that Shen Wanshua's concerns were reasonable. But she still disagreed with Shen Wanshua's meaning, so she said, Annie, I know you are afraid that your current situation will drag down Li Zhan. However, now that the whole village knows that Li Zhan is not a biological child of the Li family, he must be anxious to know who his biological parents are, why he was fostered in the Li family, and why he has not come back for so many years. Take him back. Auntie, if you still hide it from him, I'm afraid that if he finds out in the future, he will be angry with us.
But
Shen Wanxue was in a dilemma. She didn't want to recognize her son, but she knew better than Xia Huanhuan what her situation meant. If someone found out that Li Zhan was her son, then Li Zhan's life is ruined. Xia Huanhuan grabbed Shen Wanxue's hand and said with a smile, "Auntie, you and Li Zhan know each other secretly. Just don't let others know. I believe that Li Zhan will never dislike you because of your status." After hearing this, Shen Wanxue nodded and said softly, "Alas." Then, "Huanhuan, will you send a telegram to Li Zhan tomorrow? I'm telegraphing you, but you must not talk about this." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Don't worry, Aunt. I have something in mind." After saying this, Xia Huanhuan suddenly remembered and asked, "Annie, you haven't eaten yet, have you? It's New Year's Eve today, when we were eating dumplings in the evening." Although Xia Huanhuan had secretly asked Xiao when to bring dumplings to Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi. But looking at Shen Wanxue, she probably didn't eat any of them. "Annie has eaten the dumplings you sent." Xia Huanhuan had already gotten up and went to the kitchen, smiling. "Then Annie will eat another bowl of dumplings with me. I've been talking for a long time, but I'm hungry." After a while, the dumplings were ready and brought over with soup and water. The two of them ate the hot meat-filled dumplings while talking. Xia Huanhuan asked, "Auntie, Li Zhan's father, what's your name?" Where are you now?" Shen Wanxue sighed and said, "Oh, his name is Rongzhenbang, and he is in the northwest now. We haven't seen each other for several years. Originally, I wanted to go to the northwest with him. I originally thought that if the conditions there were difficult, then it would be good for the two of us to be together. At least we would have someone to take care of us." Unexpectedly, he quietly asked someone for help, and in the end, I stayed near the capital and he went to the northwest alone. After I heard about it, I was angry with him for a long time. But later, when I found out about the place he asked someone to arrange for me, I could no longer blame him. Xia Huanhuan also sighed and said with a smile, "Let me guess, the place he arranged for me is very good. Maybe it's where your children live?" Shen Wanxue raised her head and glanced at Xia Huanhuan, her eyes filled with sleep again. She nodded and said, "Yes. I have been persistent all my life and still refuse to give him any more children. Even when he is old, he still tolerates me. Meeting him in this life is worth it." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but be moved after hearing this. In a family like Shen Wanxue's, everyone is in danger in this era, and there are countless couples who separate when disaster strikes, but they still withstood the test. Knowing this, what could the husband ask for? After staying for a while, Shen Wanxue said that she wanted to go back. Before going back, she gave her son some clothes. He gave them all to Xia Huanhuan and said, "Huanhuan, you can give these clothes to Li Zhan when he comes back." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then quickly declined and said, "Auntie, these are the clothes you made for him with your own hands. You should wait until he comes back and give them to him yourself." After pushing for a while, Shen Wanxue saw that Xia Huanhuan refused, so she had to take the baggage back. Early the next morning, Xia Huanhuan went to the town to send a telegram. In this era, everyone is dedicated to their work, and on New Year's Day the telegraph station was also on duty. After she came back, she saw Li Jia wandering in front of her house, wanting to go in but feeling embarrassed. "Third brother, why don't you go in when you're here?" Xia Huanhuan hurriedly came up to him and asked. Li Jia then said a little sarcastically, "Huanhuan, this matter. I really can't talk about it. But after thinking about it, I think it's only your side. Do you have $10 on hand? I'll borrow it for now, and I'll pay it back to you in the spring after the new year." Xia Huanhuan understood after hearing this and asked, "Third brother, tell the truth. Did you borrow the money to go to the capital to find that piece of jade?" Li Jia blushed a little and said, "That jade was lost by our Li family after all. Neither Li Chang nor Lu Lan can count on them, and Li Chang will definitely not be able to borrow money. If you don't look for it quickly, you really won't be able to find it." Xia Huanhuan said, "Third brother, don't worry about this first. I went to the county seat today and already sent a telegram to Li Zhan telling him about this. He also sent an email to his friends in Beijing and asked them to help him find it. Don't worry. Although they haven't seen you, I told them in the telegram what Li Chong looks like, what his accent is, and where he probably sells the goods. They are from Beijing, so it will definitely be easier to find them than we used to. Li Jie was still a little worried after hearing this. Is this really possible? If they can't be found, how can the fourth brother find his parents? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Beijing City is not that big, and they are in the army, so they must have more ways than us. Third brother, don't worry. Even if we really can't find him, doesn't third brother know what kind of person Li Zhan is? He will definitely not blame us. Li Jie listened and thought it made sense. The last time Xia Shuangshan was falsely accused by Xia Dazhuang and Li Tsuehua and was put in the police station, wasn't it because Xia Huanhuan's brother knew the police that the matter was resolved? Li Zhan's comrades in arms might also know people in the police station, and they would be better at finding him than a farmer like him who couldn't read a single word. Li Jie nodded and went back. However, of course, this matter couldn't be let go. Wouldn't that be a bargain for Li Chong and Wang Guixiang? Li Jie brought Secretary Zhao and the village cadres to the police station. Pulled over, made Li Chong write an IOU of 30 yuan in public, and told him to return the money. Li Zhaodi saw that the matter could only be handled like this temporarily, so she said she was going back. She came in a hurry this time. It was New Year's Day, and she was worried about her husband and 7 children being alone at home. Xia Huanhuan sorted out a bundle of pickled and dried bacon, sausage, dried beans, pickled duck eggs, etc., stuffed 7 red envelopes in it, and also stuffed a bag of candy and a bag of melon seeds in it. She took it to Li Jie's yard and handed it to her, smiling. Sister, our family has prepared a lot of New Year's goods this year, and I'm afraid we won't be able to finish them if they go bad in the spring. I brought some for you, if you don't mind. You can take them back. There are also some candies and melon seeds for the children. And these red envelopes are their New Year's money. How could Li Zhaodi accept it when she saw it? She had come empty-handed, and had prepared red envelopes of 10 cents each for the nephews and nieces from her mother's family as New Year's money. How could she bring back so many bags when she went back? It doesn't make sense to bring things back from my mother's family if I haven't gone back. And the red envelopes, our kids didn't come with us, so forget it. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, Sister, you don't want to accept them. Does that mean you dislike me? The kids didn't come, but they must be looking forward to the red envelopes at home. If you go back empty-handed, they might think that your uncle and aunt are stingy. Wouldn't we have died unjustly? Zhou Qiuhe also came forward and said with a smile, Yes, sister. Li Jie was raised by you since he was a child, and we are connected even if we break bones. Our family is not as well off as our fourth brother's family, but these things and the red envelopes can't be used to have children. Big sister, if you don't accept it, it would be too polite. Li Zhaodi had no choice but to accept it after hearing that. Li Jie borrowed Xia Huanhuan's bicycle again, sent Li Zhaodi to the county town, and took the bicycle back. When Li Zhaodi got home, she showed the things to her husband and opened the red envelope of New Year's money given by Xia Huanhuan. It was not a big deal at first glance. Each child got 50 cents. Zhou Qiu's pocket was small. None of the 7 children got 10 cents. But no matter how you count it, she has the most children in her family, and she must have benefited from receiving New Year's money. Not to mention the New Year's money, just the things that Xia Huanhuan brought her, such as bacon, sausages, and salted duck eggs. Their family could only eat them once or twice a year. Now that they get so much at once, they may have a prosperous year this year. Li Zhaodi also heard from Li Jie that since Li Zhan went to the army, he would send all his allowances back every month. When Li Laodi was not dead, Li Laodi still had the final say in the family, and the allowance had not been taken by Lu Lan alone. Therefore, the Li family was able to marry a daughter-in-law because of Li Zhan. Li Zhaodi was filled with emotion. Although the Li family adopted the fourth brother and raised him, Li Zhan has probably repaid the debt over the years. On the contrary, they also benefited from it. On the first day of the new year, Lin Yuru returned to her own home and lived with Xia Shuangshan. Xia Shuangshan also heard about Li Zhan's life experience and sighed. Alas, it is probably God's will that Wan'er and Li Zhan, 2 children without biological parents, can be together. Lin Yuru said. Who said it wasn't? I don't know what Li Zhan's biological parents are like. If they are still like Lu Lan, then our Wan are. Alas. Xia Shuangshan said. Oh. You are just worrying about nothing. I think Li Zhan is also a wise man. If his mother is really like that, Li Zhan will definitely stand on the side of our Waner. As they talked, they couldn't help but think of Yan Haotian, who was still in the south. Yan Haotian also had to carry out a mission during the Spring Festival and could not come back. He had sent a telegram back in advance. In addition, a package was also sent, including Guangdong's specialties and snacks such as sausages, water chestnut cakes, and egg rolls, as well as a remittance slip of 20 yuan. He also asked Zhang Hai to come and see them once before the new year and sent rice and flour, so they had a rich new year. This almost made the other two branches of the Xia family envious. In the past, the two families relied on Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru to work as workhorses to earn work points. Now that the family has been divided, there is no one to use them. At the end of the year, other families raised chickens, pigs, and sheep this year, but their two families were lazy and didn't raise anything. They were not active in farm work. By the end of the year, their work points were not enough for the whole family to eat. They were just waiting to eat relief food, and were criticized by the commune. Relief food can only ensure that they will not starve to death, but it is impossible to have enough to eat. Not to mention eating meat. Seeing that Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru's family lived a wealthy life and their son and daughter gave them so many things, Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu came to ask for it once with a smug look on their faces, and Sun Yuxiu even urged her husband to come over once. However, Xia Shuangshan ignored them. He had already made up his mind to completely sever ties with this awful family, and he didn't even look at them straight in the eye. On the second day of the Chinese New Year, Xia Huanhuan followed tradition and took the kids and gifts back to her parents' home. After that, there was nothing to do, so she stayed at home for the winter, making glutinous rice, tying lanterns, and waiting for the Lantern Festival. While busy with all this, Xia Huanhuan was waiting for Li Zhan. When she sent the telegram, it was an urgent telegram, just to ask Li Zhan to go home. If Li Zhan saw it, he should come back immediately, or if he couldn't come back, he should reply to the telegram. But until the 6th day of the Chinese New Year, there was still no reply, and Xia Huanhuan couldn't help feeling depressed. This kind of situation has happened before. After all, Li Zhan's whereabouts are uncertain because of his mission. It was common not to receive a letter or telegram for a while. But this time, perhaps it was because she had been looking forward to seeing him since she sent the telegram, and she looked forward to it day by day. Now she couldn't wait day by day, and it was normal to be hit by the disappointment. It was also the first time that she felt so deeply that she missed Li Zhan so much, wanted to see him, wanted to listen to him talk. Psychologically, when celebrating the New Year in the countryside, people always felt that the year was over after the Lantern Festival. If Li Zhan could come back before the Lantern Festival, it would be considered that the family had celebrated the New Year together. On the day of the Lantern Festival, Xia Huanhuan no longer expected Li Zhan to come back. The family ate Lantern Festival dumplings and went to bed early. In the middle of the night, Xia Huanhuan heard a rustling noise coming from outside. Xia Huanhuan was startled. Could it be a thief who came to steal the sheep and chickens at home? Xia Huanhuan was afraid that she would wake up Lin Yiru and she would be scared, so she quietly got up by herself, took a stick from behind the door, opened the door, and went outside. It started snowing again at night, and the ground was covered with a thick layer of snow after being dry for a few days. It didn't seem serious at first glance, but someone was swiftly climbing over the wall of her house, and then with a light jump, he landed quietly in the yard. Even the chickens and sheep in the chicken coop and sheepfold in the yard were not alarmed. Xia Huanhuan's heart tightened, and she shouted in a trembling voice, "Who?" Unexpectedly, the man was agile and came to her in 2 steps, then quickly dodged the stick in her hand and covered her mouth. The big hand was so cold that Xia Huanhuan couldn't help shivering.
Sure.
Don't scream. It's me. Xia Huanhuan's eyes widened. Who else could it be if it wasn't Li Zhan who was covering her mouth? Li Zhan saw that she recognized him, so he let go of her mouth and grinned and called, "Wife." Xia Huanhuan was speechless. "You can go home if you wanna. Why don't you go through the main door and climb over the wall? Xia Huanhuan quickly pulled him into the house, complaining in a low voice. There were snow stubbles on Li Zhan's military coat and hat. He laughed twice and didn't say anything. He went to the Kong and looked at the triplets who were sleeping soundly and couldn't help but change the subject. These three boys are so big now.
Alas.
It feels like they asked me to call Dad just yesterday. In a blink of an eye, they have grown so big. However, Xia Huanhuan had actually guessed it. It was already past 2 in the morning. If he knocked on the door, it would definitely make a lot of noise and wake up the whole family. Do and change the subject. You climbed over the wall to get in, but you still had to knock on the door? Are you planning to stay overnight in the yard? Xia Huanhuan pulled him to the coal stove in a bad mood, asked him to sit down and warm himself by the fire, and poured the hot water in the thermos into a rubber heating bag, stuffed it into Li Zhan's hand, and let him warm his hands. The dark red rubber heating bag, shaped like a small pillow, is a feature of this era. Xia Huanhuan bought several. She gave one to Xia Shuangshan, and Lin Yiru slept with Xiaowen and the others, so there were 2 on the bed. She also had 2 in her room with the younger triplets. The other one is this, which is used to warm hands. Every night, she would pour hot water from the coal stove into it and put it at her feet to warm her feet and quilt. Li Zhan didn't dare to say that he was thinking of staying in the kitchen for the night and talking about it in the morning. Anyway, when they were on missions before, it was common for them to sleep in more difficult environments than this. Tomorrow, I'll go to the county town to get some cement and stick some glass fragments on the top of our yard wall. The wall is too easy to climb over now, and it's not safe for you and your mother to be at home alone. Xia Huanhuan. Wasn't he the first one to climb over the wall? And he climbed over his own wall. Are you sure? If you stick some glass fragments on it, it will be difficult for you to climb over the wall in the future, right? Xia Huanhuan said faintly. Li Zhan didn't react for a while and smiled. That's impossible. A few pieces of glass can't stop me. Wife, cough cough. What I mean is, I will definitely come in through the front door in the future and never climb over our wall again. Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and said, That's better. Really, I come home like a thief. If the villagers know about it, they will laugh to death.
Li Zhan smiled guiltily.
Xia Huanhuan asked him if he had eaten, and she was going to cook for Li Zhan, but Li Zhan hugged her and asked her to get into bed quickly. It's so cold. Don't be busy. Get into bed quickly. The heat you have accumulated with great difficulty is gone. I had dinner in the county town at night before leaving, and now my stomach is still full. In fact, he got off the train at the county railway station and rushed home without stopping. He just ate some dry food on the way. Xia Huanhuan heard that she was really cold, so she quickly got into bed. She couldn't help feeling distressed and complaining. If it's already late when you arrive in the county, just stay in the county guest house for one night and come back early tomorrow morning. Why do you have to rush back overnight? Li Zhan smiled and said, Aren't I missing you and the children? As he said this, he took off his military coat and the military uniform outer coat and trousers underneath, then lifted Xia Huanhuan's quilt and tried to get in. Xia Huanhuan blushed, but still moved to the inside of the bed to make room for him. The family had made a new cotton quilt, so it was still possible to make a new quilt, but that would mean a cold quilt. Li Zhan had been traveling for most of the night, and she had to warm the quilt herself. She was reluctant to do that. Li Zhan hugged Xia Huanhuan from behind and lay down. He sighed with satisfaction and said with a smile, It's better to go home. Isn't this what a happy life with a wife and children on a warm bed is like? Not long after she lay down, Xia Huanhuan felt Li Zhan's hand from the back of her waist, lifting her pajamas and groping all the way to the front.
Well,
Do and. The children are still asleep. Xia Huanhuan was a little numb, and she grabbed his hand from outside her clothes and protested slightly. Li Zhan kissed her on the back of her neck, unbuttoned her clothes, and said with a smile, How old are they? You won't understand it even if you wake up. Xia Huanhuan also wanted it, so she blushed and didn't stop him, letting him do it. The two of them stopped panting, and the bed almost felt hot. Li Zhan then asked, By the way, you sent a telegram asking me to come back quickly. What's the matter? Is there something wrong at home? He rushed back in a hurry, on the one hand because he missed her and the children, and on the other hand because Xia Huanhuan's letter made him worried. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan turned her head, looked at him hesitantly, and said, "Nothing happened at home. Everything is fine. It's just that there is something about you."
About me?
What about me? Li Zhan was a little confused. Xia Huanhuan hesitated for a moment and finally said, "About your life experience." When Li Xiaodi, Lu Lan, Li Chong, and others were making a fuss in front of Li's father's grave, many people in the village went to watch the fun, so this matter must not be kept secret. Instead of letting him hear it from others tomorrow, it is better to tell him in person. On New Year's Eve, your eldest sister Li Xiaodi went back to her parents' home. Li Zhan widened his eyes and said, "Eldest sister is back." Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "Eldest sister said that you are not actually a child of the Li family, but a couple fostered in the Li family. Also, Lu Lan is not the biological mother of the third brother and the eldest brother and sister. She was met by my father-in-law on the way to escape famine. Naturally, it is even more impossible for her to be your biological mother. And your second brother Li Chong, he is the son brought by Lu Lan, but he is not from the Li family." Xia Huanhuan said while observing Li Zhan's expression, but found that Li Zhan was abnormally calm. The astonishment, suspicion, and helplessness she imagined were all gone. Li Zhan looked at her very calmly, even with a little smile, and listened to her telling this big secret. Xia Huanhuan was a little slow to realize it, and at the same time, she felt that she was crazy to think so.
But
after excluding all possibilities, the answer left, no matter how incredible it is the truth.
You.
Why are you not surprised at all?
You
have known for a long time that you are not a child of the Li family, and Lu Lan is not your biological mother? Xia Huanhuan confirmed. Li Zhan looked at him with deep eyes, then nodded and smiled softly. "Yeah.
I know."
Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan sat up suddenly. The quilt was lifted, and the cold wind rushed in. Her clothes had been almost stripped off just now, and now she was almost, but she didn't care about the cold. She widened her eyes and asked in surprise, "You? When did you know?" Li Zhan's eyes deepened, and he quickly wrapped her with the quilt and smiled. "You don't mind the cold. You'll be frozen in a while." Xia Huanhuan realized belatedly what a stupid thing she had done. Fortunately, the lights were not on in the room, so it was not so embarrassing. "You haven't answered my question yet. When did you know?" Li Zhan hugged her, and his hands made a lot of small movements, which made Xia Huanhuan angry and ashamed. Then he smiled and said, "Well, about 11 years ago." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. 11 years ago? Wasn't it the year you went to the army? Li Zhan nodded and said, "Well, about the same. However, I didn't know that Lu Lan wasn't the mother of my eldest sister, eldest brother, and third brother, nor did I know that my second brother wasn't a child of the Li family." When Li's father remarried, Li Zhan was younger than Li Jie, just over 1 year old. The adults didn't tell him, so it was normal that he didn't know.
Then,
how did you know?
Xia Huanhuan asked.
Li Zhan's eyes darkened slightly, and then he said, "The year when the recruitment office came to the village to recruit soldiers, the village somehow spread the news that this wave of recruits would go to the south to fight as soon as they joined the army, and they might die. Therefore, no one actively signed up. The Li family lived in poverty at that time, and there were many sons. The eldest and second brothers were in their teens and 20s, but they hadn't married yet. The family was squeezed into 2 thatched and yellow earth houses, and they had no food to eat.
Mom.
It was Lu Lan who wanted to let one of her sons join the army. I heard that the army would give the family 30 yuan for finding a soldier. My eldest brother is a strong laborer and has to do farm work at home. He is also the eldest son, so my father doesn't agree to let him go. Lu Lan doesn't agree to let my second brother go. Only my third brother and I are left. Lu Lan advocates that I go, but my father doesn't agree. It was just a coincidence that I happened to hear them talking outside. Back then, Father Li smoked his pipe, was silent for a while, and said, "Let Xiao Jie go." Lu Lan said, "His father, why do you turn your elbow outward at the critical moment? Li Jie is your biological son. I think, let Li Jian go. We have raised him for so many years, and raised him from a hungry kid to such a big man now. It is only right for him to make some contributions to the family. Father Li scolded. Shut up. Didn't I tell you that you are not allowed to mention a word about this matter in the future? What if Xiaozhan hears? Lulan shrank back and said, I didn't I say it in secret? There is no outsider present now. Old man Li glared at him fiercely and said, just let Xiaojie go. It's one thing that Xiaozhan is not old enough, but his parents entrusted their child to me and said they would come to find him in the future. If Xiaozhan goes to the army, what if something happens to him and his parents come? Where can I find a son to return to them? Lulan smiled sarcastically. His parents come? Father, I'm not saying anything harsh. It's been 15 years, almost 16 years. If they wanted to come and pick up their child, they would have come a long time ago. If they haven't come yet, I'm afraid they have already had other children and don't want him anymore. You must have been cheated. For $12 silver, you have been a sucker for 16 years, raising a son for others.
Lulan.
I don't let you say anything, but you're still excited, right? Keep your voice down. The children will hear it later. Lulan said, Father, you may think I'm selfish, but even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. After all, Li Jia is your own flesh and blood. I heard that his life might be in danger this time. Do you have the heart to let your son sacrifice himself? Do you think I don't love Xiaozhan? But if no one goes to the army, what about our 4 or 5 sons? Are they all going to be bachelors? People say you are incompetent and can't even marry a daughter-in-law. Don't you feel ashamed? Old man Li was a little shaken. He sighed and said, alas. Let me think about it again. Li Jian didn't listen anymore. He secretly left a letter and went to the recruitment office, falsely reported his birthday, and went to join the army. There were many children in the family, and Li Jian had never been a child who received much attention. Therefore, the letter he stuffed under the pillow was not discovered by the Li family until the next day. At that time, Li Jian had already left with the army. Xia Huanhuan listened to Li Jian's calm narration, and somehow her heart was blocked. Thinking of Li Jian, who was only 15 years old but less than 16 years old at that time, how sad he must have been when he heard the truth that he was not a child of the Li family. But no one comforted him, accompanied him, and told him that his parents did not abandon him on purpose, and they didn't come to pick him up for so many years. Tell him that they didn't come to find him, because they had their own difficulties? Since you already knew it at that time, and listened to the nonsense Lulan said, why did you serve in the army for 9 years and send almost all of your allowances back home? Xia Huanhuan was filled with resentment and doubt, and her nose was sore. She felt it was not worth it for him. Li Jian smiled and said, no matter what Lulan does, but there is one thing that is right. They have indeed raised me from a crying baby to a young man of 15 or 16 years old. I should repay the kindness of raising me over the years. Xia Huanhuan was speechless. Therefore, he sent almost all of his allowance back to the Li family just to repay the kindness of the Li family for raising him.
Li Zhen.
Why are you so stupid? Xia Huanhuan heard herself say softly. Li Jian held Xia Huanhuan's hand and smiled. How can you say that your man is stupid? Besides, how am I stupid? If money can be used to repay emotional debts and favors, there is nothing more cost-effective in the world. Xia Huanhuan thought about it, and it was indeed true. It's just, how did you get through all these years? Have you tried to find your biological parents? Li Jian smiled. In the first few years when I found out, I felt really bad, and I thought about looking for them. But there was no clue at all, and I couldn't ask my family, so I had no way to find them. Later, I gradually became indifferent. Maybe my fate as their father and son and mother and I is too shallow, and it was exhausted the moment I was born. Xia Huanhuan opened her mouth, wanting to tell Li Jian that, in fact, his parents had never given up looking for him, and his mother was now very close. But after looking at the pitch-black sky outside, she held back. At least, wait until tomorrow. He must be very tired after his journey back, so let him catch up on some sleep first. If I tell Li Jian now, He will definitely be in a complicated mood and unable to sleep.
Alas.
I thought you would be extremely surprised to hear the secret, but in the end, forget it. Go to bed quickly. Otherwise, if the three little guys wake up and cry in a while, you won't be able to sleep. Li Zhan hugged her and smiled. Yeah, I'm really a little sleepy. Tomorrow morning, tell me about the eldest sister. I haven't seen her for many years. I wonder if she is doing well. As she was talking, she heard a slight snoring sound. Li Zhan had fallen asleep. Xia Huanhuan looked at the handsome sleeping face of the man in the darkness. She couldn't help but kiss him on the lips. She raised her hand and gently traced his face with refined lines like a marble sculpture. The stubble made her hand itchy. Her eyes were gentle, as if she was looking through this calm, transparent and forbearing rough man, traveling through more than 10 years of time, to comfort the lonely and sad 15-year-old boy that year. Li Zhan, you are not abandoned. And I am here. I will always be here. Xia Huanhuan also fell asleep in a daze. However, she felt that she had not slept for long when she felt uncomfortable. The triplets should have been weaned successfully. It couldn't be that Yan Yan or Ye were playing a prank or doing something bad again. Xia Huanhuan woke up reluctantly, only to find that the three little guys Yan Yan, Ye and Yao Yao were lying beside her, staring at her with innocent big eyes, looking at her obediently. Xia Huanhuan.
If it wasn't them, then.
Xia Huanhuan's cheeks immediately blushed, and she gritted her teeth and said, Li Zhan, doesn't this rascal know the occasion or place? Didn't he see that his three sons were awake and watching with their eyes wide open? The three little guys didn't know why they were amused. Yan Yan suddenly stretched out his little finger and pointed at Li Zhan, saying, Eat Nina. This time, Ye and Yao Yao also followed suit, laughing happily, and shouted incoherently, Eat Nina. Xia Huanhuan. She is a complete social idiot. Fortunately, the three little guys are still over 1 year old, and they won't be able to remember what they see now when they grow up. Li Zhan didn't think he did anything wrong at all, and said quite innocently, Smelly boys. You have been weaned. It's my wife's. Eat shoot. Xia Huanhuan. Why did she want to kick him off the bed so much? The little episode in the morning came to an end. Lin Yu knocked on the door and asked Xia Huanhuan to get up. When she opened the door, she was shocked to see Li Zhan dressed neatly. Li Zhan.
Ouch.
When did you come back? Why was there no sound at all? Li Zhan said with a smile. Mom, I came back at midnight last night. I was afraid of disturbing you and the kids, so I walked lightly. Lin Yu heard this and said with a smile. Oh, I'm glad you're back. You didn't get to eat glutinous rice on the Lantern Festival yesterday, did you? There is still a lot of glutinous rice left from Waner. I'll make some for you now. You can eat a few, which will be a good occasion, and we'll be reunited. Li Zhan nodded with a smile and said, Okay, then I'll wait for the food. The triplets have already put on their clothes, each wearing a thick cotton padded jacket, cotton pants, and rabbit skin boots. As soon as Xia Huanhuan carried them off the ground, they ran out to find Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei. Unlike when they just learned to walk, they would stagger after a few steps and would have to tremble and climb down when they encountered a step. Now they can run and have fun in the yard. Or they would follow Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei and crawl out to play with other children in the village. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei also like these little brothers who look exactly like them. When they each hold one hand and take them out to play, the other children are envious. Xiaowen, your brother is so handsome.
Oh.
If my brother was so cute, I would definitely not sneak him away from home and not play with him. Why wouldn't I take him? He's so ugly that I'm embarrassed to take him out. A child named Lu Yuanbao said seriously. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei looked at him and were speechless. They thought to themselves, how dare you say that about your brother? You are not good-looking either. However, although Lu Yuanbao is ugly, he is a lively treasure. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and the triplets all like to play with him, and the friendship boat has not capsized. The triplets went to find Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, shouting over and over again, Brother, brother, sister, feed the chickens, feed the sheep. The chickens are hungry. The sheep are hungry too. Xiaowen and the other 3 elder ones pulled them, took the chopped cabbage leaves and sweet potato pieces from Linuru, ran to the chicken coop and sheep pen, and scattered the cabbage and sweet potatoes in to feed the sheep and chickens. Here, Xia Huanhuan pulled Li Zhan, closed the door and then said softly, Li Zhan, I have something to tell you. Seeing that she was so serious, Li Zhan smiled and said, What's the matter? Xia Huanhuan took out a jade pendant, which was the phoenix pendant that Shen Wanxue had given her before. Li Zhan recognized it. Isn't this the one given to you by Aunt Shen? Why did you take it out of the blue? Xia Huanhuan did not answer, but took out another piece of jade and placed it together with the phoenix pendant, then said softly, When Aunt Shen gave me the phoenix pendant, she told me that this phoenix pendant is a pair, and there is also a dragon pendant, which she and her husband left for their newborn son who was fostered in a farmer's family as a token of reunion between mother and son in the future. Seeing the dragon pendant means finding their long-lost son. Li Zhan's pupils suddenly contracted. He had guessed what Xia Huanhuan was going to say next. Xia Huanhuan looked at him and really said softly, Li Zhan, this dragon pendant is in your house. When your father was dying, he entrusted it to Lu Lan, asking her to pass it on to you and tell you the truth. But she coveted this jade and the generous allowance you sent back every month, so she kept it a secret.
Li Zhan, Aunt Shen
is your mother. Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan for a long time without moving, and he didn't even blink. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but feel a little worried, and subconsciously wanted to hold his hand. It must have taken him a long time to accept that he was fostered in the Li family by his biological parents. They said they would come to pick him up, but they had never shown up for more than 10 or 20 years. However, even if he accepted this, he would still feel hurt. In this world, is there any child who is willing to be abandoned by his parents? Li Zhan, Aunt Shen, and the others also have their own difficulties. Listen to me. But Li Zhan dodged before she touched him, and then he barely bent the corners of his lips, revealing a somewhat helpless smile, interrupting her and whispering, Huanhuan, I'll go to the mountain first, and we'll talk when I come back. After that, without waiting for Xia Huanhuan's consent, he went out of the door with the bamboo basket on his back, without looking back. Xia Huanhuan wanted to shout, but she didn't say anything in the end. Li Zhan is not the kind of impulsive person. But for such a big thing, he should be given some time to digest it. Linuru cooked the glutinous rice and saw that Li Zhan went out without eating. She was also puzzled and asked, Wanner, where is Li Zhan going? The glutinous rice are just cooked, and he hasn't eaten breakfast yet. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Mom, it's okay. Let's eat first. He said he was going to the mountains to hunt. The wild animals in the mountains are still groggy in the morning and are easier to catch. Xia Huanhuan did not tell Linuru that Shen Wanxue was Li Zhan's biological mother. It's not that she didn't trust Linuru, but the fewer people who knew about Shen Wanxue's current situation, the better. Linuru had to give up after hearing this, and said with a smile, This is a good deal for these kids. Aren't you afraid that their teeth will be damaged so you don't let them eat more sweets? They just ate it last night, and they can eat it again early this morning. When Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei heard this, their eyes lit up and they immediately ran over excitedly and asked, Grandma, are there also glutinous rice to eat this morning? When Yan Yan, Ye, and Yao Yao saw that their brothers and sisters had run over, they also ran over clumsily with their short legs and said in a baby voice, Eat glutinous rice. Eat glutinous rice. Xia Huanhuan and Linuru both laughed. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Okay. However, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei can eat 3 each, and Yan Yan, Ye, and Yao Yao can only eat 1 each. Xiaowu was very disappointed. Ah, only 3? Beibei sighed exaggeratedly, like a little adult. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help pinching her little face and said with a smile, You're already sighing at such a young age? If you eat too much candy, your teeth will be eaten by worms. Beibei covered his mouth with his hands and stared at Xia Huanhuan in horror. I don't want worms to eat my teeth. Xia Huanhuan blinked and said with a smile, That's why you can only eat 3. If you eat too much, Worms will eat your teeth. Also, you must brush your teeth well every morning and evening. Bebe nodded vigorously when she heard it. Xiaowen is older and has started to change his teeth. The teacher at school has also talked about this. Of course, he knows that Xia Huanhuan is just bluffing and patted his head helplessly. These days, it's really hard to be a child without any education. However, he didn't dare to tell the truth. After scaring the little guys, Xia Huanhuan turned back to Lin Yuru and said, "Mom, after breakfast, let's make some stuffing to make dumplings. We still have some pork from the pork we bought 2 days ago. Oh, and stew those pig's trotters with soybeans. When Li Zhan comes back, it can be eaten right away." Lin Yuru agreed after hearing this. "Okay, I'll make it after breakfast." The breakfast was also ordinary: sweet potato millet porridge, sweet potato flour and white flour steamed buns, a plate of pickled radish, a plate of spicy cabbage, boiled eggs, cut some bacon and stir-fried with winter bamboo shoots. The triplets were also steamed with egg custard, which was mixed with fish paste and chopped spinach. The sweet potatoes in the millet porridge were crushed, and the boiled eggs were crushed, which they could also eat. In addition, there were sesame-filled glutinous rice dumplings. Children like to eat sweet things, and the 6 little guys looked at the white and plump dumplings and were eager to see them. After breakfast, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Bebe took the triplets out to play with the children in the village. Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru began to prepare the dumplings and stew the pig's trotters. It was still the first month of the lunar year, and the fresh pork and pig's trotters were hung outside, which would not go bad for a few days. First, the pig's trotters were taken down, and the coal stove was moved outside, and some firewood was put in. Then the remaining hair on the pig's trotters was burned off with fire, and then they were washed with clean water and put in the pot. Various seasonings were added to stew. After stewing for a while, they were taken out and placed in a casserole, which was transferred from the stove to the coal stove. The washed soybeans were added and continued to simmer over low heat. From time to time, check whether the water has been dried up and don't pay too much attention to anything else. The dumpling filling is pork and radish. The two were busy for most of the morning, and they had wrapped enough dumplings for the whole family. Xia Huanhuan was still a little worried about Li Zhan, but it was not a good idea to use space teleportation to the mountain to take a look. Otherwise, if Li Zhan found out, she would have no way to explain. She could only wait patiently. It was almost noon when Li Zhan came down from the mountain. Passing by the river at the head of the village, he saw from a distance Shen Wanxue using a shoulder pole to hit the river surface to break ice, to fetch water for the cows in the cowshed. Li Zhan hesitated for a moment, but immediately walked over quickly and took the shoulder pole from Shen Wanxue's hand. Shen Wanxue was startled and turned around to see who it was. When she saw that it was Li Zhan, she was stunned. She just stared at him blankly, her lips trembling, but she couldn't say a word. Li Zhan glanced at him, then said softly, "Let me do it." If it were in the past, Li Zhan would call her Aunt Shen without hesitation, but now, after knowing the relationship between them, he couldn't call her that no matter what. Shen Wanxue finally reacted, and tears welled up in her eyes, but she was afraid that Li Zhan didn't know that she was his mother, so she didn't dare to show it too much. She quickly wiped her tears, raised her hand to grab the carrying pole in Li Zhan's hand, and said in a trembling voice, "Let me. I'll do it myself. You go back quickly." Whether Li Zhan knew it or not, she was afraid that the villagers would see Li Zhan helping her, which would have a bad influence on Li Zhan. However, Li Zhan emphasized his tone and insisted, "I'll do it." Shen Wanxue had to step aside somewhat at a loss. Li Zhan chiseled the ice open in a few strokes, put 2 buckets into the river to fill them with water, and then carried the water towards the cowshed. Shen Wanxue had to follow somewhat at a loss. Li Zhan ran back and forth 2 or 3 times, filled the 2 troughs, enough for 2 or 3 days, and then went back. From beginning to end, he did not say anything else to Shen Wanxue. When other people saw this, they were actually a little puzzled. After all, although the villagers did not blame or bully them, they basically would not get too close to them. Helping to carry water, such physical work, was done by themselves. Li Zhan was kind-hearted, and he would help carry a bucket when he met him. but it was quite unusual for him to directly help fill the two large troughs. Although Yang Qiushi did not know that Shen Wanxue was Li Zhan's mother, considering their relationship with Xia Huanhuan, it was normal for Li Zhan to help in this way, so he said to others, Li Zhan is a soldier. Isn't it normal for him to be warm-hearted and help? Let's all go away. Others who were narrow-minded, such as Old Li, who refused to pay when throwing away fodder in the past and was later isolated by others, said sarcastically, Warm-hearted? Why didn't I meet warm-hearted people when I was on duty to fetch water? Also, it seems that Li Zhan's wife is also taking special care of you and the girl from the Shen family, right? She sends you all the delicious food. I say, you don't have any special relationship with their family, do you? Yang Qiushi got angry when he heard it. Li Fujin, you are also literate. Why are you so narrow-minded? Are they only taking care of us? Didn't you eat the fine grains, meat and eggs that they sent to you from time to time? What? Now you are here to make sarcastic remarks. What's the matter? What do you want to do? Old Zhang, who had also received favors from Yang Qiushi, Shen Wanxue, and Xia Huanhuan for throwing away fodder in the past, also said, That's right. We all benefited from this matter. Don't you have any idea what to say and what not to say? Old Li, if you dare to be sarcastic again, you'd better have some backbone in the future and don't eat the food, meat and eggs sent by others. The others also echoed and condemned Old Li. After all, they have really benefited a lot in the past 2 years. Although they didn't get as much care as Yang Qiushi and Shen Wanxue, they really got a lot of white flour, rice, eggs, and even pork, chicken, duck, and game. Compared with the lives of people in the same situation as them in other places, it is much better. It is more than the help given by their relatives in the city. If they are still so heartless and make sarcastic stories about Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan behind their backs, they are worse than pigs and dogs. Old Li was attacked by everyone and felt guilty. Wasn't he jealous of Yang Qiushi and Shen Wanxue? They were the same beneficiaries, so why did they get more care than the others? I was just talking casually. Is it not okay if I don't mention it again in the future? Old Li said submissively. Shen Wanxue didn't care about these things. She waited for Li Zhan to leave, then returned to her room and sat there in a daze. Did that child know it? Or didn't he know yet? Why didn't he say a word to her? In his heart, he must still be blaming her, right? Although she wanted to go to Xia Huanhuan to ask immediately, it was broad daylight, and Li Zhan had just helped to carry a few more buckets of water, and some people thought it was strange. She couldn't be too impulsive. If she hurt Li Zhan, it would be bad. Yang Qiushi saw that she looked different, so he came over to ask. Shen Wanxue quickly forced a smile and said it's okay. It's just, I got a headache after being caught in the wind. I'll be fine after lying down for a while. Li Zhan helped to fetch water, then came back in a daze. Xia Huanhuan breathed a sigh of relief, and then she saw that there was nothing in the basket he was carrying except a little rabbit. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. With Li Zhan's skills and experience in surviving in the wild, he only shot a little wild rabbit, but it was too little. He was probably in a bad mood and absent-minded. However, she didn't say anything and smiled. You're back at the right time. The pig's trotters are also stewed. I'll go get you too. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Okay. Speaking of which, he hasn't eaten since he came back last night. I went to the mountains early in the morning. I had just picked up several buckets of water, but now my stomach was really hungry. Xia Huanhuan also thought of this and gave him 2 servings and half a bowl of soybeans with soup and water. In addition, he also got him 2 white flour steamed buns. Li Zhan looked at it, startled for a moment, then raised his head and hesitated to speak. Seeing this, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you hesitating? Li Zhan scratched his head, looked away, and said, There must be a lot in the pot. There are more on her side. Uncle Yang, please give me some as well. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then realized that the her Li Zhan was referring to was Shen Wanxue. Li Zhan used to be called Auntie just like her, but now that he knows her identity, it is naturally inappropriate to call her Auntie again. But it is indeed a bit difficult to ask him to call Mom directly. However, the fact that he still remembered to give pig trotters to Shen Wanshue meant that he probably didn't blame Shen Wanshue in his heart. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Don't worry. There is plenty left in the pot. It's inconvenient during the day, so I'll ask Xiaowen and the others to send it over at night." Then he said tentatively, "Or, let Aunt Shin come over secretly at night. You guys want to meet and have a chat?" Li Zhan was silent for a moment, and then nodded softly, "Yeah." Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, "Well, I'll make more dumplings this afternoon. Let's have another meal in the evening." As he said this, he mentioned that Li Zhan's eldest sister, Li Zhaodi, married her a few years ago, and then her husband died, and he remarried and moved away, and now he told Li Zhan that he had 7 children in the family. After a moment, he said softly, "Actually, your parents haven't come to see you for so many years. It's just God's will. You also know that she has been looking for her children all these years." As he said that, he explained the matter. The ins and outs were briefly explained. After hearing this, Li Zhan sighed and said, "Oh, I don't blame them. It's just, I feel a little awkward." Xia Huanhuan walked over, hugged him tenderly, and said softly, "Yeah, I know. Anyway, no matter what, I will always be by your side." After hearing this, Li Zhan reached out and hugged Xia Huanhuan tightly, saying softly, "Daughter-in-law, you are so kind. He is not at home all year round. Help him take care of his eldest brother's children, help him give birth to children, and also help him secretly take care of his biological mother, although he didn't know it before." Xia Huanhuan laughed. "Of course I am good. So, you have to dare to like other women. I must be angry." Li Zhan laughed. "Which of you are the dry vinegar you eat? I like other women, but there are none around me." Xia Huanhuan thought of Fu Qingye and the older one named Fang Yanru. Although they are probably dead, it doesn't mean that other women won't rush to join her.
No.
Don't even think about it, Xia Huanhuan said jealously.
Li Zhan smilat funli. Okay.
I just said the wrong thing. I have never thought about it and will never think about it in the future, okay? Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and said with a smile, "That's okay. Pretty much. For lunch, we have stewed pig's trotters and some dumplings." In the afternoon, Li Zhan rode his bicycle to the county seat, asked his retired comrades to help him get a bag of cement, and carried it back directly on his bicycle. I asked other people in the village for some broken cans and bottles, and then started working, making a circle of glass pieces on the top of the courtyard wall. Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru just kept making dumplings. After the bags were wrapped, Xia Huanhuan asked Lin Yuru to send some to Xia Shuangshan. Lin Yuru guessed that maybe it was Li Zhan's rare return. What did the couple think? It was inconvenient for her to live in the house over there, so they asked her to go home and stay for 2 nights on the pretext of delivering dumplings. Then he smiled and said, "That's okay. Your dad is alone at home, and he is really lonely. I will take Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei with me, and let them go into the mountains to catch rabbits with their grandfather. You just go with me, Li Zhan. Please talk to me carefully. Now that the triplets are getting older, we will try to get pregnant with another one this year." After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan's face immediately turned red. "Mom, what are you talking about? There are already 3, plus Xiaowen, and the others, there are 6. Isn't that enough?" Lin Yuru said with a smile, "6 are not many. Your mother is not in good health, otherwise it would be too bad. It's not like I just gave birth to your brother, and..."
Well,
"I gave birth to your brother." After saying this, Lin Yuru felt a little stuck when she remembered that Xia Huanhuan was not her biological child. Xia Huanhuan took her hand and said with a smile, "Mom, there is still me. Am I not your biological daughter anymore?" Lin Yuru said with a smile, "Yes. Yes. In short, having many children and grandchildren is a blessing. Otherwise ask Li Zhan if he thinks it's too much." Li Zhan chuckled and said, "Mom, I'm not in a hurry. We'll wait until Yan Yan and the others are older. In this era, especially in rural areas, the more children, especially sons, you have, the more powerful you will be when you grow up. Therefore, the old concept is that having more children is a blessing." Li Zhan actually has similar ideas. After all, He still wants a daughter as beautiful as his wife. However, he was away from home all year round, and Xia Huanhuan had to bear the burden of another child. He couldn't stand and talk without back pain. When he settles down and can stay with her for a long time, it won't be too late to do it again. After Lin Yuru left with Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, Xia Huanhuan sneaked over at night and asked Shen Wanxue to come over. On Yang Qiushi's side, Xia Huanhuan gave him a pig's trotter and some dumplings, but he was not invited tonight. There was no one else at home. When Yan Yanye and Yao Yao saw Shen Wanxue coming, they all happily went up and hugged her legs, raised their heads, and shouted happily, "Grandma! Grandma!" Shen Wanxue's heart melted. Responded in a flurry of voices, "Hey, you be good." Xia Huanhuan pulled the three little troublemakers aside and whispered, "Be good, come and drink with Grandma. Grandma and Dad have business." The cub ran over, each holding a small bottle, and drank milk. Shen Wanxue and Li Zhan met again. Both of them were still a little nervous and reserved. Li Zhan is embarrassed and awkward, while Shen Wanxue is uneasy and guilty. Xia Huanhuan came over and pulled Shen Wanxue and said softly, "Auntie, I'm sorry. I have briefly told Li Zhan about the matter. Don't blame me." Shen Wanxue's body trembled, and his eyes filled up again. She shed tears, patted Xia Huanhuan's hand gently, and said, "Huanhuan, it's too late for Aunt to thank you. How could I blame you?" Her eyes looked at Li Zhan for a moment, as if to express her gratitude to you. It seems like he has seen enough for decades before he is willing to give up. Li Zhan was a little at a loss when she saw him, so he said, "I'm going to serve the dumplings." Xia Huanhuan came over to hold him and whispered, "I'm going to serve them. You and Aunt Shen can talk for a while." Xia Huanhuan is now also called Aunt Shen Wanxue. She wasn't sure what Li Zhan's attitude would be before, but she didn't recognize it without Li Zhan, so she yelled first. "And I'm used to it." Now, even though she knew that Li Zhan was inseparable, she would probably recognize her as her biological mother. But if she really wanted to change her mind, it wouldn't be much better if she didn't need Li Zhan. I always feel a little awkward and embarrassed. When serving the dumplings, Xia Huanhuan deliberately slowed down and took a while to bring them over. She saw that Shen Wanxue was taking out the new cotton-padded clothes made this winter for Li Zhan to try on. Shen Wanxue looked Li Zhan up and down with tearful eyes and said with a smile, "Oh, it's a little too big, and the wind will probably get in. You take it off and I'll change it when I go back."
Li Zhan said softly, "Goodbye. I think it's fine. It fits."
When Xia Huanhuan saw this, he knew that nothing major would happen. There is no overnight feud between mother and son. Besides, in this day and age, families cannot afford to raise many children, and many of them are given away to be raised by other families, such as her biological parents. Shen Wanxue and her husband were helpless in their situation back then. Besides, the two of them have not had other children for so many years out of guilt for their first child. This alone is enough to be forgiven. Xia Huanhuan also smiled and said, "I think this is good too. If you are bigger, put a close-fitting sweater underneath. It will be just right." "I see you. Just wear it to bed tonight, don't take it off. It will definitely be warm." Li Zhan glanced at Xia Huanhuan and said nothing. But I disagreed in my heart. Warmth is warmth. Wouldn't it mean that you can't hug your wife if you wear it? After hearing this, Shen Wanxue breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Alas. Except for the past 2 years, I can't wear anything I made before." She would make one every year, but then her situation changed and the rest of the family she didn't take anything with her, just the clothes she made for her son. No matter how cumbersome they were, she always kept them with her. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Don't be afraid of this. Yan Yan and the others are only over a year old. Their father gives them clothes that they can't wear. It's not wasted." Shen Wanxue also laughed, but just 1/3 of them don't have enough clothes. "Come on, I'll make 2 more. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan quickly stopped and said, "Auntie, what's the matter? It's like I'm asking you in disguise."
"Something like that."
"If there is a county seat, let them take turns wearing it. Your eyes are not very good to begin with, but don't do sewing in the middle of the night. It will tire your eyes. With that said, everyone ate dumplings and pig's trotters together. Then, Xia Huanhuan pulled the triplets into the house and said he wanted to coax them to sleep, leaving Shen Wanxue and Li Zhan to continue talking outside. Li Zhan was more or less still. It was a bit awkward, but in the current situation, if he didn't speak, Shen Wanxue would definitely think that he was still blaming them, and it would be impossible to let go. Therefore, he glanced at Shen Wanxue and said softly, Huanhuan has already told me.
I
don't blame you for your difficulties. Shen Wanxue looked at Li Zhan blankly, raised her hand to wipe her tears, and then said softly, Alas. Zhaner, you have suffered. In these years, your father and I have been searching for a long time, but we can't find him. Fortunately, God has mercy on you. You are still alive. Li Zhan also felt a little uncomfortable. After all, he had known that he was not a biological child of the Li family for more than 10 years. Well, it would be a lie to say that I have never thought about my biological parents. Now, the truth is revealed. They have not abandoned him, but have been looking for him for many years, but they can't find him, so they feel pity for them. He couldn't help but sigh and said, You should have a few more children later. What will you do with the rest of your life if you can't find me? Shen Wanxue said quickly. Oh, this is all a hurdle that I can't get over. Your father. He couldn't defeat me either, so he became like this. After Shen Wanxue said that, she glanced at Li Zhan. Up to now, Li Zhan had never called her mom, so she didn't dare to call her mom and dad rashly. Li Zhan looked away with some embarrassment and asked softly, My dad. Where are you now? Facing Shen Wanxue himself, Li Zhan was a little unable to scream, but it was easier to shout to his father who was not here. After hearing this, Shen Wanxue's tears fell again. He called Zhenbang daddy, naturally. That means I recognize her as my mother.
Hey.
Your father is in the West now. I just sent him a letter telling him that I have found you. He listened and found out that his son is married and has given birth to triplets. He will definitely be happy. Crazy. The contents of the letters between them were usually checked, so she did not dare to write this matter explicitly in the letter. However, she still wrote a small secret code that only the two of them knew. Zhenbang was sure when he saw the letter I understand. Li Zhan nodded and said softly, Yeah,
I
will look for an opportunity to inquire and see if I can move him to the same place as you. After hearing this, Shen Wanxue said quickly, Zhaner, please stay out of our business. From now on, apart from us and Huanhuan, let's keep our relationship a secret for now. If this leaks out, I'm afraid your future will be affected. Your father and I are completely different from each other, so it's okay. As long as we know that you are still alive, no matter it is me or him, we can hold on until the day when our family can be reunited. Li Zhan also knew this, but he really couldn't do it if he wanted to treat his biological parents as ordinary people as before. It was Shen Wanxue who insisted again and again that Li Zhan agreed. He added he asked some personal questions, such as how Li Zhan grew up over the years. Did he ever feel hungry or cold? Did his adoptive parents treat him well? When did he join the army? Have he ever been injured? Li Zhan answered one by one, noting the good news or the bad news. It was almost midnight, and the mother and son seemed to have nothing to say. Fortunately, Xia Huanhuan had moved the coal stove that was originally placed in Lin Yuru's room in the middle of the night. The temperature was low, but Shen Wanxue's body couldn't bear it. Even so, Shen Wanxue was shivering from the cold. Seeing that it was getting late, Shen Wanxue stood up and said reluctantly, Alas. It's so late. I have to go back. It would be bad if someone finds out I'm not here. Li Zhan wanted to let her sleep here, but he opened his mouth but still didn't say it. What Shen Wanxue said was the truth. But as a son, he could only watch his biological mother suffer, but he could not take her back. When I went in my room to perform my filial piety, my throat felt like something was stuffed, and it was so congested, you should go to bed quickly. Shen Wanxue waved to Li Zhan and told him to go back. But Li Zhan followed him out and said softly, Mom, it's okay, it's just a few steps away. I'll take you to the room over there, and I'll come back. When Shen Wanshua heard the name Mom, her body froze suddenly, and then her nose became sore, and tears came out of her eyes. She quickly turned her head away, covered it up with the night, and said softly, "Oh,
That's okay.
the moon on the 15th day is 16 round. Today happens to be the 16th day of the first lunar month. A bright silver disk hangs in the dark blue sky, casting a silvery glow on the earth." The two of them quietly walked through the remote road at the back door. The trail reached Shen Wanshua's hut. Shen Wanshua turned back and said with a smile, "Go back. Don't freeze." Li Zhan nodded and said softly, "You go in first. I'll go back again." Shen Wanshua couldn't resist, so she had to go into the house first, and Li Zhan turned back. Xia Huanhuan put the triplets to sleep, but she couldn't sleep because she was worried about Li Zhan and Shen Wanshua. When she heard about Li Zhan and Shen Wanshua went out together and was stunned for a while. Li Zhan took off the cotton clothes made by Shen Wanshua and quietly lifted up the quilt and got into bed. The cold wind and the cold air on Li Zhan woke up Xia Huanhuan. Coming over, she turned around and asked softly, "Have you finished talking to Mrs. Shen?" Li Zhan hugged Xia Huanhuan from behind and said softly, "Yes." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Then from now on, I will follow you and call her Mom, right?" Li Zhan hugged her tighter and whispered again, "Yeah.
But
If anyone is here, let's call her Aunt Shen." Xia Huanhuan understands what Li Zhan means. This was what she and Shen Wanshua had discussed before. For Li Zhan, they can only recognize each other in private, but on the surface, they still have to pretend that they have nothing to do with each other. Xia Huanhuan points out he nodded and said softly, "Yeah, I know." He couldn't help but ask, "Then, what are your plans for Lu Lan and Li Chong, as well as the third brother Li Jie and your eldest sister Li Zhaodi?" Li Zhan thought for a moment before speaking. "Third brother. Of course we are still brothers, no different from before. We finally have news from the eldest sister. As long as she is still willing to be relatives with us, she will still be the eldest sister. As for Lu Lan and Li Chong is just fine on the surface. As for Lu Lan, I want to discuss it with third brother to see how to do it. In the past, I thought that although she was not my biological mother, she was the biological mother of the third brother and the eldest brother and eldest sister, and she was the mistress of the Li family. Since she had raised me, it was right for me to provide for her and my father in their old age. But now, there are so many reasons behind this. It can't be that we and the third brother are just the ones taking advantage of each other and giving us money and work points every month. Instead, her biological son is indifferent to her." Xia Huanhuan nodded after hearing this and said, "Well, that's fine too."
and
Xia Huanhuan continued, "After the third brother knew that you were not a child of the Li family, he mentioned it to me and said that he wanted to bring Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei back to raise him. Son, I told him at that time that I couldn't decide and would wait until you come back. You have an idea in your mind that he might mention it when the time comes." Li Zhan listened and was silent for a while, then said softly, "Well, Huanhuan, what do you mean?" Xia Huanhuan sighed and said, "What I mean is that we have raised these three brothers and sisters for so long, and there is no shortage of food for them in the family. If possible, we still want to stay at our house and continue."
raised.
The third brother and third sister-in-law's family had just given birth to their fourth child 2 years ago, and the family was struggling to survive. They relied on Li Jie, a strong laborer, to earn work points. If Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were given to them, their lives would definitely be difficult. Life is even more difficult. Also, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, the three brothers and sisters, are sensitive because their father died and their mother no longer wants them. If we don't raise them anymore because they are not related to us by blood, then they will feel sad. If you go astray again. But after all, they are your eldest brother's flesh and blood. If Li Jie wants to keep the Li family's flesh and blood in the Li family, then our position is really difficult to refuse." Li Zhan was moved when he heard that Xia Huanhuan knew the truth, but was still willing to raise the three Xiaowen brothers. He rubbed his chin into Xia Huanhuan's neck and said with a smile, Huan, with your words, I feel relieved. I also thought it would be business, as usual. We are not severing ties with the Li family. There is no reason for it to be like this. Don't worry, I'll go talk to third brother. The two of them talked about other things. After experiencing such a big thing this day, they were all tired and had nothing to say all night. The next day, Xia Huan woke up and found that Li Zhan had already gotten up. There was no panic, and Li Zhan probably went hunting in the mountains. He went into the mountains with a lot of worries yesterday and ended up hunting a hare, which made Li Zhan feel very embarrassed. So he probably went hunting wild boars today. Xia Huan wasn't afraid that he wouldn't be able to hunt. Firstly, it was because Li Zhan had already perfect hunting skills. On the other hand, she had just released some wild animals into the mountains, and sure enough, Li Zhan caught them in less than a while. After returning to the village, Secretary Zhao and the village cadres were asked to find a few strong laborers to go into the mountains to carry the wild boar. This was a wild boar weighing 300 kilograms. Naturally, the village happily divided the wild boar meat, and every family could share it. It weighed 7 or 8 pounds. The wild boar was hunted by Li Zhan, so this time, all the pig meat and 4 pig trotters were given to Li Zhan's family. Others also thought it was reasonable. They did nothing and still had wild boar meat to eat. Where could they get it? What are you dissatisfied with? Xia Huan brined the pig offal that she brought back with brine and made a delicious pot of it. She sent some to Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi in the evening. This time, when no one was around, Xia Huan secretly shouted, "Aunt Shen, I have discussed it with Li Zhan. From now on, when there are no other people around, I will secretly ask you to call me Mom. Do you think so?" After hearing this, Shen Wanxue couldn't help but said, "Why not? In my heart, Huan has already become my daughter." Xia Huan smiled softly, called Mom. After coming back from there, Li Jia and Zhou Qiuhe happened to come over to talk about the recent events. Xia Huan also secretly sent a message to Lin Yuru about this matter, because she was afraid that Xiao Wen and the others would be sad after hearing it, so she asked Lin Yuru to stay one more night in Xiajia village before coming back. Li Jia was a little cautious. After all, Li Zhan is no longer his biological brother. Moreover, the Li family has actually done so many immoral things. Lulan actually refused to give the jade to others and concealed Li Zhan's life experience. Moreover, the jade is now, after selling it and still not being able to get it back, he was really embarrassed to face a serious battle. Li Zhan smiled and said, "Third brother, you're thinking too much. After all, the Li family raised me and we grew up together. Unless you don't recognize me as your younger brother, you will always be my third brother." Li Jia was greatly moved after hearing this, but he still said guiltily, "But I haven't found the piece of jade where your parents can be found." Li Zhan had already listened to Xia Huan's words, and he also smiled. "Third brother is here, don't worry about this. My comrades in arms in Beijing are helping to find them. I heard from them that they already have some clues. Don't feel guilty about this anymore." Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, and Beibei regarding the matter. Li Zhan also insisted on raising him by himself. For the same reason, as long as the Li family stayed away from outsiders, he would always be the fourth son of the Li family. Moreover, he also promised that even if he found his biological parents and changed their surnames in the future, Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, and Beibei would still have the surname Li and would not change. They will always be the children of eldest brother Li Jun. Li Jia also knew that his family's conditions were not as good as those of his fourth brother, so when Li Zhan said this, he had no choice but to give up. The last thing I want to talk about is Lu Lan's pension issue. In the past, Li Jia was given 100 work points per month, and Li Zhan was given 5 yuan per month. However, Li Chong, his biological son, said nothing and took advantage of Lu Lan. Li Jia was the most angry. "Humph. I didn't know before that I would be partial just because I thought she was partial. Who would think it was his own mother? The pension points she deserves are not missing even 1 cent. Now I know she is a stepmother. Why should we support her if we don't give her our own son? I've already told her that I don't plan to give her the 100 work points every month. Li Zhan, look at her. What kind of thing did her son do? That jade pendant was a token of your return to your parents, and she did it without conscience. It was so bad. I have already gone to Secretary Zhao to declare this. The secretary and the whole commune have nothing to say. You don't have to worry about her going to the commune to sue you, let alone the commune. Even if she sues to the county, she won't win. This matter is settled like this. Li Zhan's feelings for Lu Lan began more than 10 years ago when he heard Lu Lan suggest that he, who is not yet old enough, be sent to the army in exchange for the 20 yuan.
There was not much left.
In the past 10 years or so, all the allowances have been sent back in order to repay the kindness of raising me.
Now, these things happened again.
If Xia Huanhuan hadn't found you back, then he might not be able to find his biological parents in this life. Is he crazy enough to give 5 yuan a month to such a person for retirement? The two brothers finally reached a consensus and broke up. They did not go out of their way to notify Lu Lan and Li Chong. Li Zhan's heart suddenly moved, and he was a little confused. How did Xia Huanhuan get the jade back? Li Chong said that he had sold it to the Beijing market, although Xia Huanhuan had explained that she had listened to what the children said and secretly followed Li Chong to the Beijing market to buy the jade.
But
I always feel a little strange. If you want to go to Beijing, you must have a letter of introduction to buy tickets. But for what reason did his wife go to Beijing? Li Zhan thought for a while, then went to see Secretary Zhao, and first told Secretary Zhao about Lu Lan. Secretary Zhao also felt that Lu Lan's affair with Yu Mei was too immoral, and he didn't do much to dissuade Li Zhan from stopping Lu Lan's pension. Li Zhan smiled again and said, "Also, Secretary Zhao, my wife went to Beijing to visit relatives 2 years ago. Thank you for your letter of introduction." Secretary Zhao was stunned for a moment and asked in a daze, "Years ago? Your daughter-in-law? Didn't I send you the letter of introduction to the capital? Did you remember the time wrong?" Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Oh, I guess I got the time wrong. Can you please stop mentioning it to my wife? If she even gets it wrong about when she went to Beijing to visit my wife, she will definitely be angry with me." Secretary Zhao said with a smile, "You two have a good time every day. What is it like to quarrel?" Li Zhan said, "Fighting at the end of the bed. There are always bumps in the life of the couple." Secretary Zhao nodded. "That's right. If you run away from a good wife like Huan Huan, you won't be able to find her even if you hold a lantern in the future." Secretary Zhao asked again, "By the way, do you have any clues about your biological parents?"
Sigh.
"If Neiyu is still here, we can ask." Now, all the clues are gone. Lu Lan and her son are really indifferent. After coming out, he couldn't help but frown. If his wife had never been to the capital city a few years ago, how did she get that piece of dragon pendant? Could it be that she asked the Fu family for help but was too embarrassed to say it? Li Zhan decided to ask Brother Fu again after returning to the team this time. Somehow, he had felt from before that his wife seemed to be hiding a lot of secrets. But he is her husband. What kind of secret should she not tell herself? Thinking of this, Li Zhan felt a little disappointed for no reason. He was debating whether to ask Xia Huanhuan directly. However, before he had time to worry about it, the postman from the county telegraph office rode his bicycle into the village and gave Li Zhan an urgent telegram. After receiving the telegram, Li Zhan only had time to hurry home and said to Xia Huanhuan, "Just set off," and left. Xia Huanhuan didn't even have time to prepare some dry food for him on the road. As soon as she gritted her teeth, she took out a few large white steamed buns and meat buns from the space and brought them to him. Li Zhan looked at the steamed buns in his hands and didn't say anything. He just hugged Xia Huanhuan tightly before leaving. He should leave the doubts in his mind until he comes back to ask questions. The two will be separated for a while again. If they say it now, it will only become a thorn in Xia Huanhuan's heart. Because he cannot explain it in time, it will become a thorn in the couple's heart.
He doesn't want this.
No matter what his wife hid from him, she was always helping him. As for you, if she hadn't found him, how many years would it have taken for him to find his biological parents? No matter what kind of secret, don't even think about destroying the relationship between him and his wife. Xia Huanhuan is not aware of Li Zhan's suspicion yet. After Li Zhan left, Lin Yuru came back with Xiao Wen and the others and said with regret, "Alas." Li Zhan came back in a hurry this time and left in a hurry. The time was really too short. Xia Huanhuan, I felt quite uncomfortable. I never came back and I didn't really think so, but once I came back and left again within a few days, I felt really sad. Alas. He is also required by the mission. There is nothing we can do, Xia Huanhuan said, and began to seriously consider the matter of joining the army that Li Zhan mentioned before. However, this matter has to wait. Still, water from far away cannot quench the thirst for nearness, so I can only bear the longing forcibly. Time flies so fast. A month passes in the blink of an eye, and it's the end of February. The postman came to deliver the letter, and someone from the village came to tell Xia Huanhuan to come and get the letter and remittance order. The letter and remittance order were naturally sent by Li Zhan. The remittance order was 55 yuan, 5 yuan more than usual. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Li Zhan's current allowance is 65 yuan per month. She asked Li Zhan to leave 10 yuan of pocket money every month if something else happens, such as giving gifts to the brothers below, then leave more sum. Don't worry, they don't have enough to spend at home. After subtracting the 5 yuan he sent to Lu Lan every month, the amount he sent to her every month was 50 yuan. This month there is an extra 5 yuan. Just when I was wondering, I heard Lu Lan, who came next, ask, "Comrade, do you have my remittance slip?" The postman checked for a long time and said, "Lu Lan, right?"
No.
Lu Lan was anxious. "How come there isn't? Please check again. My son should have given me the old money for foster care a few days ago, 5 yuan a month. Did you lose it?" The postman, who was suspected of his professional ethics, the comrade, was very angry. "What are you talking about? I've checked it twice for you. If it's not there, it's not there. What do you mean I lost it? How many years have I been a postman? I have never lost a letter or a remittance. It's the order. If you have nothing to do, just let it go. Don't delay others." After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan realized that Li Zhan had added the 5 yuan originally sent to Lu Lan to what was sent to her. Lu Lan also saw Xia Huanhuan looking towards her and couldn't help but glared at Xia Huanhuan fiercely. If she hadn't married into the family, how could she have been so unlucky that everyone was deserting her now? The other people who came to pick up the letter saw Lu Lan not giving up and laughed sarcastically. "Lu Lan, you are so shameless. It's about Li Zhan's life. If you say you are ignorant, you are ignorant. Now, the scandal has happened. You still have the nerve to ask Li Zhan to send you the allowance? That's right. If I were to send it to you, you would have to spit it out even if I didn't send it to you before." Humph. What the Hades is that? The keepsake left by the biological parents was sold to Beijing by the mother and son. Li Zhan is so unlucky. If he can't find the keepsake, he is afraid that he will never recognize his biological parents again in his life. After hearing these words, Lu Lan's face turned black. She was regretting it so much now. If she had known that it would be stolen by Li Chang and Wang Guixiang, she should have sold it long ago. Now, not only did she not get a penny, but she was also exposed by Li Zhaodi on the spot. Now Li Zhan and Li Jie knew about it, and they didn't give her any money or work points. Rely on Li Chang again? He is an ungrateful person. What sin did she commit in her previous life to give birth to such a beast? Now that she knows that Li Zhan and Li Jie don't care about her, and she can't get any money from her, they just treat her like air, just like their own wife. Not to mention money, they just act as if they don't see her when they see her. It's a pity that she thought that none of the other 3 sons of the Li family could be relied on in the future, and she would have to rely on her own son when she was old. Therefore, her heart has been leaning towards Li Chang over the years. When there was good meat and eggs at home, she hid them and secretly fed them to Li Chang. She made cotton-padded clothes for other children, while Li Chang always wore new cotton-padded clothes. Even when Li Zhan sent his allowance back to help the Li family's sons find wives, she first found a wife for Li Chang before it was the turn of Li Jun, the eldest son of the Li family. In the end, partiality led to hatred. Lu Lan was really mad to death. Her own son Li Chang was unreliable, so she went to find Li Jie again, but was scolded by Li Jie. She placed her hope on Li Zhan again. After all, Li Jian had been sending his allowance home for more than 10 years, so he should be easier to fool. Besides, it was true that she wanted to embezzle the jade, but she didn't sell it this time. If she pretended to be pitiful, Li Jian should be able to provide for her in her old age. The letter pretending to be pitiful was sent more than half a month ago, and Li Jian should have seen it. So, she came here with hope to see if Li Jian had remitted money to her. Unfortunately, her wish came to nothing. Lulan didn't look for the reason in herself, but hated Xia Huanhuan even more. Li Jian was such an honest and kind child. He must have been instigated by his wife to ignore her. Lulan glared at Xia Huanhuan with hatred, turned around and left. Just wait. She will soon make Xia Huanhuan regret going against her. By then, Li Jian will definitely divorce Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan frowned and looked at Lulan, feeling a little uncomfortable for some reason. Was this old woman planning some dirty tricks in her mind? When she returned home, she whispered to Lin Yuru, asking her to be more careful when she went out these days, especially when she saw Lulan. Try not to pay attention to her. Lin Yuru listened and agreed. Now everyone in the village knows about the bad things she has done. Who will pay attention to her? I will not pay her any more. Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, I have to go to the town to buy some things tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. When the time comes, you should be at home and keep an eye on the little guys and don't let them run around crazy. She was going to Beijing. Luo Chung had brought her a letter before, saying that Dahe had found a nice courtyard house in Beijing, but she had not had time to go and see it. In the past 2 days, she received another letter from Beijing, saying that the owner of the courtyard house was waiting for money urgently, and if she didn't go to see it, she would have to find another buyer. So, she would go there in the next 2 days. Lin Yuru didn't doubt him and said with a smile, Go ahead. I'm at home. The next day, Xia Huanhuan went to Beijing through space. This courtyard is close to Shikahai. It is not far from Hohai Lake, and it is not far from Yandexi Street and Nanlua Guxiang. Xia Huanhuan naturally knew that in another 20 or 30 years, this place would be a place where every inch of land in Beijing would be worth a lot of money. By then, even if you have money, you may not be able to buy a courtyard house nearby. Of course, even in this era, this location is one of the most prosperous locations in Beijing. The owner of the house is the same as Cui Xiaodong, who sold the rosewood couch to Xia Huanhuan before. They are all ancestral property. He planned to sell the courtyard house, exchange it for gold, and wanted to sneak to the south. Therefore, he was in a hurry to sell it, and the way he found it was also wild. Otherwise, he would not be able to find Dahe. However, his asking price was too high, so after selling it for more than half a year, no one was interested. Otherwise, he would not have waited for Xia Huanhuan for so long. Xia Huanhuan asked Dahe softly, How much does he want? Dahe gestured 60,000?
Xia Huanhuan asked.
Dahe nodded. I thought he was making fun of me at first. Who can come up with 60,000 yuan these days? And, from what he said, he wants gold bars. 60,000 yuan, 10 yuan apiece. How high will it be?
And
people in the south won't recognize it. However, if there are really no gold bars, then money will do. He can go to the south and find a way to exchange it for gold. Xia Huanhuan understood after hearing this. He was probably planning to steal. What does it mean to go to Hong Kong City? This courtyard house must be worth 60,000 yuan, and it is valuable because the yard itself is empty. It has not been allocated to other citizens and turned into a slum. At that time, there is no need to haggle with these residents, and the property rights are clear. But 60,000 yuan is not enough for Xia Huanhuan. Since the beginning of the year, her business with Luo Chung has become a little more frequent. In addition to ginseng, she has also started to supply other Chinese medicinal materials. Luo Chung once asked her if she had any Western medicine, and she only sold Western medicine a few times later. However, the Western medicine she stockpiled in her space is limited, so she only supplies it in small quantities. Scarcity makes things valuable. Besides, if Western medicine becomes popular, if she sells grains indiscriminately, it will be too ostentatious. She has also traded grains several times. However, Grains are now subject to unified purchase and sale, and the price cannot be raised. The profit is actually average, so it is better to sell medicinal materials. With the income from this period, plus the money she saved before, she only has 40,000 yuan in her hand now, and she still needs 20,000 yuan. Following Dahe to the courtyard, Xia Huanhuan looked around. This is a courtyard with 2 entrances, and the place is not small. Xia Huanhuan is quite satisfied. In 30 or 40 years, the prices in this area will be sky high. Now it is only 60,000, which is really not expensive. However, she is short of money, and it is impossible for her to not bargain at all and be a sucker. After asking the price, Xia Huanhuan asked lightly, "Can you bargain?" The owner looked arrogant and said in a hoarse voice, "Do you know the goods? This is the ancestral property of the royal family. Bargain. Turn left when you go out. No one will see you off." Xia Huanhuan listened and was about to go out without saying a word. Dahe quickly grabbed her. "Sister, don't go. Let's discuss it. I see you like this courtyard quite a bit." Xia Huanhuan deliberately showed a lack of interest and said, "The courtyard is good, but 60,000 yuan is too expensive. At this price, I can buy 2 houses in other places. No matter how good the location is, it's not worth it." Dahe walked up to the owner and whispered, "Old Zhang, say something. I have asked all over Beijing for you. What time is it now? If anyone has 10 yuan of spare money, then he is a rich family. There are really no people who can afford so much at once. I know you are thinking about someone directly exchanging gold with you. But think about it. If someone has 10 gold bars at home, then what is the need for your courtyard? I am sure they have it too. Besides, even if there are gold bars, who dares to take them out and trade with you openly?" This sister was introduced by Luo Cheng. Don't you believe Luo Ji's reputation in Beijing? Let me tell you this. Only this sister can afford the price you want. If you still want to wait, then I have nothing to say. I don't have the ability to be the middleman for your business. The owner had obviously heard of Luo Cheng's name, and he couldn't help but be moved. He pulled Dahe aside and asked in a low voice, "Dahe, I heard that Luo Cheng, Brother Luo, has a way to the southern port city. If you promise to ask Brother Luo for me and help me when the time comes, I will sell it at a lower price." Dahe looked at the owner with a sneer and said, "Lao Zhang, you have a good plan? For such a risky thing, even if you sell it at half the price, it may not be enough to pay Brother Luo." The owner felt a little painful. You want to sell it at half the price? Lao Zhang knew a lot about the way to the port city. Luo Cheng's way is not actually for this, but it is the safest. If Luo Cheng is willing to help, it will be the most foolproof. The owner thought for a long time before gritting his teeth and said, "Okay, half is half. As long as Brother Luo is willing to help me, I will sell this courtyard house for 30,000. Dahe had no way to decide for Luo Cheng, but he promised the owner to talk to Luo Cheng. Therefore, when Dahe came over again, he said to Xia Huanhuan, "The owner said he would think about it again, or should we come again tomorrow?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and agreed. Her psychological price was 45,000, but she estimated that the final price would be 50,000 to 55,000. Of course, if the owner really insisted on 60,000 and refused to let go, she would probably buy it. In short, everything depends on human efforts. However, she only had 40,000, and she was still short of 10,000 or 20,000. At this time, Xia Huanhuan began to regret that she had been too careless about making money and getting rich in the past 2 years, so now she can't even take out 60,000 yuan. Never mind, even if it's a bit of a loss, if it really doesn't work, she can use the gold bars she hoarded to pay part of it. She hoarded gold bars just to prevent the emergency use in case she urgently needed a lot of money and couldn't take it out for the time being. After leaving the courtyard, Xia Huanhuan returned to the rented house and then returned home through the space. Dahe went to find Luo Cheng as soon as he went out. Luo Cheng happened to be in Beijing these days, but he was busy with other things, so Xia Huanhuan's affairs were left to Dahe. Dahe told Luo Cheng what the owner of the courtyard meant and asked, "Brother Luo, I know that you usually sell materials and goods, not people, when it comes to the port city. However, This time I wanted Lao Zhang to lower the price, and I didn't say much after I talked my mouth off.
You see.
How about you agree once for the sake of Sister Wanner? If Brother Luo agrees, I think Sister Wanner likes the house very much. Wait until tomorrow. Let Lao Zhang give a discount of 5,000 or 10,000. At that time, he will give Brother Luo 20,000 with the money he got from Sister Wanner. In this way, we give Sister Wanner face and make a profit, which is not bad. Luo Qing pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, Okay. You tell Lao Zhang that I will make an exception and take him once. Dahe couldn't help but be stunned when he heard it.
This
is too straightforward to agree? You know, Luo Qing has always been a very principled person. Just for this matter, he has never made an exception even if he makes more money. He actually agreed, without thinking today. Then, should we let Lao Zhang get a discount of 5,000 or 10,000? Dahe asked tentatively. Luo Qing looked up at Dahe and said sarcastically, Look at your lack of ambition. What, 5,000 or 10,000? Didn't Lao Zhang say that he could get a discount of half? Let him get a discount of half. Dahe stuttered, Luo. Brother Luo, shall we not take a penny? Luo Qing looked at him. What do you think?
Dahe.
Brother Luo, are you sure you really don't like Sister Wanner? You really don't want to date her? Otherwise, 30,000